Michael, I'm going to try really hard this week not to be too much of a sleepy, cranky Jeff, but I'm just going to warn everybody from the onset. I'm a little bit of a sleepy, cranky Jeff. I'm a little bit sleepy, I'm a little bit cranky, and I'm mostly Jeff. So welcome back to a somewhat sleepy, hopefully not super cranky Rage Select podcast. You're Rage Select. I am Jeff.
And I'm Mike. I'm not Cranky Kong. He is.
Yes.
He says get good.
Somebody told me to get good.
Really?
Yeah, I was. Okay, so I don't know if anybody knows this, but like when you run a YouTube channel, right, and you've got a gajillion videos, like I do,
as you do,
every so often you'll just be doing your work. You just fucking bebopping along, fucking put some Kerbals around the moon, and like boop, your email goes, and it's like a comment has been left on like a 2-year-old video, and I'm like, oh, here it comes. Ooh, here it comes. And like, I don't really mind. I mean, I know everybody on YouTube says this, but like, do not. I'm going to tell you guys about this comment. Please do not go and reply to this comment. I do not want you to do that.
Okay.
It's fine. I don't give a shit. But basically, somebody left a comment on the video that Amanda and I recorded for the game Left Behind.
Oh, yeah.
Left Alive, the front mission Metal Gear spinoff. And the comment was something about like, this game's fucking way better than Metal Gear, where you just like press one button and it's a quick time event to win. Maybe you should just get better at video games and like try to like change the way your mind is. And I'm paraphrasing.
I was like, I hope so.
Well, here, no, actually, you know what? Here, we're doing call outs today. I can read this. It says, thank God this game has no slow motion and QTE. Accept different game design and get better, or play spam one button to win every battle with noob assisted mechanics. So somebody literally told me to get good. And the funniest thing is that Left Alive, unlike a lot of the other games we played for Rage Select, I played that game for like 6 hours before Amanda and I started recording because I was super interested in it. And I was like, this is a bad game. It's like a stealth game with no stealth mechanics. Like The Last of Us 2.
Well, I've heard that game is bad in general from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, even Giant Bomb was like, oh, this game's awful. And
it reminds me, back in the Spill days, you remember that game Dark? There was like a vampire game, but it was also a stealth game, and it was a bad game.
Yeah.
And I remember when I said, that's a bad game, and people were like, you just need to just rearrange your brain to a different way of thinking. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, the game doesn't appeal to me, so I'm
what?
I'm not gonna like be like, man, if I just keep playing this shitty game, I'm gonna like it eventually. I'm just gonna keep going, and eventually I'm gonna like it. So
no, that's not how some of these work.
I'm not gonna do that. Opinions are opinions.
Yeah,
they're
great.
Like whatever you want to.
There's some games that I think are great that everyone thinks awful.
Yeah.
But I stop talking as soon as they're like, well, I think it's awful, because that's their opinion.
Yeah, and I think that we're long, Michael. Everybody, audience, everybody, we're long past the point where anybody considers like me, Jeff from Rage Select, to be like a quote unquote video game journalist, right? Like, I am not a journalist.
No,
I'm a guy who sits around and is like, video games, some of them are good. I don't know.
I'm closer to being a journalist than Jeff is, to be honest.
True.
I've done actual interviews with people.
Hey, I've done interviews before. I woke American McGee up.
But I mean, like, within the past, 4 years.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you win on that. What about talking to other people? Does that count as an interview? You ask them questions and then they answer?
Did you record it?
No, but sometimes I talk about the people that I talk to on the Rage Select podcast.
I guess that may count. I don't know. Are you quoting them? You're like, Grant Davis said, shut the fuck up, Jeff.
I have it. I have it. I did an interview with Grant last night about Minecraft. You guys saw it earlier today.
It counts.
It just happened to have video, and we were playing Minecraft while we were doing the interview, and I was like, what's your fucking problem? And then he told me that's what an interview is. So yeah, I'm not a journalist. I'm not taking that. So before we get to the news this week, I gotta warn everybody, we got a very bumpy news week. There's some heavy shit in the news this week. It's kind of an up and down roller coaster.
Yes.
So there's a few points.
But that's life.
Yeah, a few points where we're going to talk a little bit about a few heavy things. But before we do that, Michael, I understand that last week you had something happen to you that was like incredibly not heavy or stressful at all. Do you want to talk about it?
Do I want to talk about my sickness?
Do you want? Yeah,
I came down with the sickness.
Are you down with it?
Mostly just the song or whatever. No, I got strep throat over the, but I didn't know it was strep throat for the first 4 days. Kind of thing. And so I went to the clinic, and everyone and their grandma was like, you probably have COVID. And I'm like, please stop saying that. Like, you should go get tested. And I was like, fine, I would do your dumb test. And I did, and hurt like a motherfucker.
Because they've got to like put a pencil into your eyeball, right? It's
basically it's a Q-tip. People can't see this, but it's like a long Q-tip,
like a 9-inch
that
Q-tip.
They just jab into your nose, and you can feel it like in your brain, essentially, because that's how far they go back.
Wow.
And then they would do it for both nostrils.
Why? Can't you just blow your nose into a tissue and be like, here, don't shove that in my face, please?
Apparently, whatever it is way back in your back.
Okay.
Way back up in there.
All right. They have to sedate me for that. I'm like, you guys going to need to get him like a dart gun, or like somebody like Hitman comes up behind me and like chokes me out until I pass out, and then you could do it, and then you wake me up and be like, we're done.
The worst part was they're like, well, there's because they do the drive-through tests or whatever.
Right.
I was like, well, you can set up a drive-through test, and the test wouldn't be till like this upcoming Tuesday. And I was like, well, I kind of don't want to wait that long.
Sure.
And they're like, well, there's a free test in Round Rock, like right now that ends at like 1, and it was like 11 when she told me. And so I drove over there, and it was this giant fuck off line because it's free and no appointment style one.
Yikes.
And I had to stand there among all these people who may or may not have corona.
Good God.
While wearing a mask, and it was hot as shit. Luckily it was windy. Thank fucking Christ it was windy. And so I just stuck my headphones in, and I just stared forward.
Listen to the Rage Psych podcasts.
Yeah, here and there.
Yep.
As well as just like random music. And then as soon as I finally got inside, like no pictures inside whatsoever.
What? No pictures? You can't like take a selfie?
I can't like take pictures of whatever's going on inside.
Okay.
But they let me take pictures outside, so it's fine.
Okay.
But I get inside, and it's another giant line.
Yeah.
But this time there's air conditioning. But I still have to keep my mask on.
Tell me that at the end, after the test, you got to ride the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, right? I mean, if you're waiting in line for that long.
There was Disney music playing when I was inside, by the way.
That sounds like a horrifying horror movie right there.
I was inside of this. It's like the Round Rock Public Safety Building or something.
Okay.
And so there's a bunch of like National Guard guys. Fucking The Circle of Life is playing. Like while I'm waiting in line.
That's not a good song. That song's about when you die, how the animals eat the grass that you.
It was a lot of just random. That wasn't the only song. There was a lot of different songs. A lot of just like a Disney soundtrack or Disney radio or some shit that was going on. And somebody did a Mickey Mouse impression while we were waiting in line, which made everybody laugh. But yeah, as soon as I got to the end of the line, they're like, "What's your name?" Whatever. And I gave them my stuff. They're like, "Okay, cool. Just sit right here." And then then I sat there for like a good maybe minute before somebody was like, "Okay, just put your mask down to like where your nose is showed," and they pull out that giant fuck off Q-tip. And I was like, "I'm not gonna like this, am I?" and she jams it into my left nostril, and I'm just like, "Ah, fuck!" And they take it out, and then I was like, "Okay, give me a second." And she almost didn't give me a second. She almost went straight like right after, like she was about to stab me.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Whoa!" It's like, just give me like a second. You just fucking like fucked me like a second ago in my face. Just give me like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And then they finally did the second one, and they're like, "You're done. Just good luck. Like, we'll call you in like 4 days." It's like, "Oh, fuck you."
So don't keep us in suspense.
So I don't have it, of course. Cause
okay.
If I did, I wouldn't be in this room.
Well, they don't know that. We could be talking across a great distance right now.
They called me on Monday? Monday, Tuesday, something like that. It took like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You don't have corona." And then like 3 hours later, the people I went to originally were like, "You just have strep throat. We gave you the antibiotics. You're good." I'm just like, for fuck's sakes, that's all I wanted to know, kind of thing.
Well,
it sucked.
That sounds like a harrowing adventure.
I also watched Unsolved Mysteries. Don't watch it.
Okay. All right.
The Netflix one.
All right.
Just do not.
Well, let's see. Let's jump in here and see what we got. Before we start, though, I did want to just briefly say over the last couple of weeks, there has been a news story that I haven't talked about on the Rage Select podcast. And that is that there's been like a lot of news from a lot of different areas in the video game industry about people coming forward with stories of sexual malfeasance, sex pests, people doing shitty shit, whether it's,
YouTubers, Twitchers,
people like
people.
that. I don't really feel like I have a good handle on those stories or like a real good way to talk about them.
There's not a good way of talking about some of them, only because it's like it's difficult to know what's really happened with some of these accusations, because there's so much information out there. I can't even find like half of the ones that people are being accused of.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say ahead of time is we kind of just do light news on this show, right?
Yes.
We'll go back to Jeff is not a journalist, right? I don't know how to. People are always like, you should do your research, and I'm like, I don't know how.
And everyone knows Jeff sexually assaulted that burrito.
I went to animation school, not find shit out school. But in spite of that, I mean, I don't think it's controversial, Michael, to say like, when you're in a position of power, don't abuse that.
No.
Consent is a good thing.
The smallest bit of power is stupidly corrupting for some reason.
Yep. And that I highly recommend that everybody go do the research on all this stuff that's happening, because
Yes.
you wouldn't be getting a good snapshot from me. Also, because it would seem really strange.
We could go full unsolved mysteries about it.
No, I don't want to do that.
On the day of June 7th or whatever.
No. Especially because, we'd have like 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of a bunch of stories about Valorant and fucking, a new trailer for Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, we don't really talk about that much.
It doesn't really seem like a good place to put that in there. So I really highly, highly recommend that everybody go fucking look that shit up, do the work, know that this stuff is prevalent.
Pay a guy to do Robert Stack impression to tell you about it.
Don't
It's
do
fine.
that. Just don't do that. Take it seriously. So yeah, go do that. I don't want to be the one to tell you this stuff, but it is out there, and you should go look it up because it is important.
Yes.
And people shouldn't feel bad. So that's my. You can tell that I'm just as comfortable talking about this as I was when we talked about Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, of course.
I don't like to put big opinions.
Let's talk about Taco Bell now. How I hate it.
Anyway, speaking of big opinions out in the world that are completely uncontroversial, let's talk about The Last of Us 2 a little bit.
Jesus.
Can
we not? I'd rather talk about the other thing.
So last week, there was kind of two things that happened that I wanted to get in there. Now, by the time that this podcast comes out, or at least I looked at Neil Druckmann's Twitter account, and he seemed to have kind of calmed down a little bit and just been like, hey, look at this fan art. Hey, check out this cool story this person has. Here's a screen share. But I feel like in the 2 weeks before that, like after the game came out, like the week and a half after the game came out, that he was real bitchy online about.
He doesn't like criticism, apparently.
Yeah. And let's just start with the fact that if you make a piece of art that has a take, any take,
yes.
any amount of content about anything, some people are going to be all pissed off and riled up about it.
Yes.
And they're going to say so. And I don't know, part of me.
You say potato, I say potato.
Yeah.
You say fuck that guy.
A lot of this. Okay, so there were 2 stories. There's actually a big Polygon article that's where everybody is sourcing this shit because I looked it up and nobody else is really sourcing stuff. So one of the stories that they discuss, I don't know if you've read this article, but one of the stories that they discussed is that apparently producers at Sony called Polygon and The Verge to ask them to quote unquote get clarification about why their scores for The Last of Us 2 were lower, which I think that both of those outlets gave them like a 7 out of 10 type of thing, right?
That's interesting.
And it's very strange because let me find the quote where they talked about they talked about what's this? This is talking about who's this guy? Rob Zachney over at Vice, where he says, they felt some of the conclusions I reached in my review were unfair and dismissed some meaningful changes or improvements.
What?
He said that it isn't. He did say that it isn't unheard of for a publisher to contact a review website.
No.
But it is somewhat irregular. And to me, this just seems like one of those things. We used to have stories all the time about Nintendo shutting down somebody's fan project or DMCAing someone's YouTube channel because they put up 5 minutes of Mario.
Yeah.
This is a bad look for Sony and Naughty Dog and Druckmann and all the rest of them, because it's if somebody gave your game, if I gave The Last of Us 2 a 2 out of 10, the last thing I feel like I should have to do, see the very beginning of this podcast,
Yes.
is explain my fucking self. Like, I don't think that the guy that left that comment on my Left Alive thing, I don't feel like he needs to explain himself about why he's so mean. Like, he likes that game more than I do, right? So if I didn't like a video game and I work for a website and I'm like, I thought your video game was mediocre to bad, that like I shouldn't have to explain myself to the person who made it. Like, that just comes off as really weird, like really a big overreach for no reason.
It's a really strange thing to do in general. It's almost like the guy just being like, say that to my face kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just a quick review.
Yeah.
And based on, like, it doesn't sound like they did exactly that. It's not like they walked up to him and was like, what, mate, what? Like, they were just like, hey, we thought the game was better than this. Why did you think it wasn't as good?
Yeah.
Because even he mentions, like, well, I told them, and then it just sort of, they were just kind of nice about it, I guess. But even then, it's still weird.
It's still okay. So it does bring up an interesting point, something that we don't go over a lot on the podcast. I see Jim Sterling for more of this. The idea of like uncoercive coercion, where it's like, hey buddy, we sent you that review copy. I just wanted to check in and see what happened with that score. Seemed a little lower than a lot of the averages. I just wanted to discuss like what you felt made the game less deserving of like a higher score. And like, all that may be non-confrontational, but the fact that somebody from that company is calling you and that's not a regular thing is kind of a confrontation, even if it's worded really nicely.
It's super weird. It's just like, hey, it's great that you reviewed our game, but wouldn't it be cool if, you were really careful on those stairs tomorrow kind of thing? I'm just saying,
I don't know.
Yeah, shame if something happened to your car.
But that's not the end of this. The thing that's probably even more interesting is Jason Schreyer, Neil Druckmann, Cory Balrog, and Troy Baker. I don't know if you know this.
No, what's going on with this?
Okay.
Now I'm excited.
So Jason Schreyer tweeted, "Video games are too long." This happened last week. And Neil Druckmann responded to him, responded to this particular tweet, and said, "What did he say?" I got to pull this up here. God, I had all these; they were all lined up. Okay, so he said, "This is the response, right?"
What a weird thing.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, so basically, there was this whole thing where somebody called The Last of Us 2 the Schindler's List of video games.
Oh, geez.
And then people started making fun of it. And then Neil Druckmann said, "With all due respect, I find these kind of ironic, quote-unquote, jokes to be unproductive at best. We could do better with critical discourse, especially by those of us with thousands of followers, especially about sensitive subject matter." And basically, when Schreyer pointed out that video games were too long, like, Neil Druckmann kind of came at him a little bit, and he responded, and then, like, Cory Balrog jumped into the mix.
What's happening?
Like, Jason Schreyer responded to one of Neil Druckmann's tweets saying, "Hey Neil, this is weirdly personal. Still not sure why you feel the need to go after me multiple times for expressing that I felt an apology was tacky. I sure hope it's not related to my recent reporting on your studio. Be well and best of luck on the launch." Because there has been all this reporting that like Naughty Dog crunched themselves to death. And Cory Balrog came in and said, "Tweets are difficult to interpret nuance, but I have to say that lately you come across as a bit of a bully, Jason. I get that your bread and butter is tearing us down, but not everything is about your book or articles. Sometimes it's just about being decent to each other."
What is happening?
And Jason Schreyer responds saying, "Wow, Cory, if by us you mean people in power who facilitate overwork and exploitation of labor, then sure, I'm proud to say my bread and butter is tearing you down. If by us you mean game developers, then that's nonsense, and we both know it." Apparently, this whole thing got to the point where Neil Druckmann called Jason Schreyer. They had a call.
He called him?
Where Neil Druckmann apologized. And to be honest, I can see if you were Neil Druckmann and the internet has just gone fucking berserk.
Yeah.
And like there's like a big chunk of the internet that like hates you for one reason, and then there's another chunk that's like, I don't know, that game was okay, but like I just don't see what the big deal is. That I can see emotionally lumping that second group in with the first group and just middle fingering to everybody.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop there, because one of the other things that came, and this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. So in the video, as a response to the video games are too long from Jason Schreyer, Troy Baker put up this big Teddy Roosevelt quote that reads, the man in the arena, it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doers of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails with daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And it is like, motherfucker, okay, I saw Ratatouille too, you know, like, but this is weird. This is weird.
Batshit insane.
Yeah. Where it's like,
also, Teddy Roosevelt would have punched you for using his quote like that.
Also, Jason Schreier's whole tweet was, video games are too long.
Yeah.
That's the entirety of it.
What he's replying to.
Yeah. He did say that tweet was about The Last of Us, or his experience with The Last of Us 2, but I don't think that, like, it's an attack to say that you think The Last of Us 2 was too long. I thought The Last of Us 1 was too long. I thought Uncharted 4 was too long.
Yeah.
I think a lot of games are too long.
That's the issue with a lot of games, is I feel like they like we were talking not that long about the fact that we haven't finished a lot of games.
Yeah.
It's because they're too goddamn long.
Yeah, because they're all so fucking long these days. Hell, I even found out, I got to the end of Desperados 3, and I was like, holy shit, I put like 22 hours, 23 hours into Desperados 3.
Anyone stopped talking about that game originally.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I'm good for now.
Then I got to the last mission, and I was like, and done. And send.
That's what I liked about Sunset Riders. It's finishable in half an hour.
Yeah. Upcoming Patreon. So yeah, this is weird. It also is weird because I feel like it's strange in that there's a strange relationship thing going on here where like Jason Schreier is technically a video game journalist, quotey fingers, not like me, but he's also kind of like been elevated a little bit, like with his reporting on like Anthem and some of the industry stuff, like the sources that he has, like he's kind of less. Maybe he's like a regular journalist, and all the rest of us are just kind of like crappy journalists because.
Well, he's trying to get the actual full-on journalist part of it,
right?
He's trying to get the actual like the stories that I want to say matter, I guess, if that makes sense. Because most of video game journalism nowadays is just like they announced this game,
rewriting a press release,
this kind of thing.
Yeah.
For the most part, that's what a lot of them are. I'm not saying those guys aren't good at their jobs either. It's just that he's going for the whole line Clark Kent hat kind of thing.
Yeah,
like he wants to be a journalist, not just video game added to it kind of thing. And he's good at it so far.
So I don't know. I mean, like, I guess this technically could count as Twitter drama, but it's just like
it is Twitter drama.
Like, well, yeah, I'm thinking of it more in the terms of like Jason Schreier is a journalist that posted his opinion on Twitter, and then like Neil Druckmann, Cory Balrog, and Troy Baker, who I believe all of those people have more power in this industry than Jason Schreier does, like, kind of just came right at him for just this very innocuous opinion. And it's like, I don't like that. I want Jason Schreier to be able to say whatever the fuck he wants to. And, I mean, hey, man, maybe he'll post a fucking Winston Churchill thing on my Rage Like podcast, but like I think Troy Baker needs to shut the fuck up because, or I mean, Troy Baker could say whatever he wants to as well, but it's such a weird, disingenuous argument to be like, you know, Jason Schreier, you've never made a thing in your life, not like me, you know, and my friends who made games.
See, that's my issue with Troy Baker's thing is that he's not saying it. He used the Teddy Roosevelt quote, which is stupid. Don't just throw quotes at people. That's not an argument. That's just going, hey, I read stuff sometimes. I wrote a paper on Teddy Roosevelt. He would have beat your goddamn ass for that shit. Hands down.
Yeah. In any case, The Last of Us 2, there's a bunch of other shit about The Last of Us 2 that is out there, but, you know, everybody just go do your Last of Us 2. Because I don't got time for Last of Us 2, Michael.
I don't have time. Teddy Roosevelt doesn't have time for Last of Us 2.
Teddy Roosevelt does not have time for Last of Us 2.
He would have hunted you down.
That's right. Because we got to talk about the Cyberpunk 2077, which is what I'm calling it from now on, like an old boomer man. Hey, you kids playing the Cyberpunk 2077?
With the Keanu Reeves,
with Ted Theodore Logan from Bill and Ted's. You know what? It was right in the middle of all that shit. I'm so excited for the movie.
Oh,
Bill and Ted Face the Music. That trailer came out like on the first day of the not E3 apocalypse, and so I didn't have time to even put it in there.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just like, I want it, Precious.
That's
wants it.
That's a really good trailer too.
Yeah. So Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes.
So I think it was the 48-minute demo that came out like 2 E3s ago, 1 E3 ago.
I think it was last year's E3.
There was an actual thing that was shown in the game of doing some kind of like parkour style wall running to get to like a higher area in the game.
Oh yeah.
Strangely enough, that has been taken out of the game.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, just due to design tweaking that they did while they were playing the game. There are going to be mobility options in the game, but that specific wall running is not going to be in there. I put this into the Rage Select podcast, both as a good segue and as a public service announcement so that somebody doesn't go, what the fuck? I can't get out of this. Like, because I would totally do that. I would totally see a demo and then start playing the game, be super excited about a feature, and then keep trying to do it. Maybe it unlocks later. And then like 600 hours at the end of the game, I'm like, where was the wall running in that game?
It happens a lot. Like I was watching old E3 footage of the original Metal Gear Solid because I was just curious because I was bored and I was just like, this is the beginning of the pandemic, and I looked it up and all the stuff that's in it that you could do that was in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah,
it's just like a lot of stuff that was taken off. Like you know his hit cycle in part 2, he punches twice and then does that flip kick or whatever.
Yeah,
he has that in the E3 footage for Metal Gear Solid 1.
Oh.
Instead of doing the the normal like punch and then he kicks forward kind of thing.
Right.
He actually had the full cycle and everything.
Huh.
And he also like you could hide bodies in it kind of thing. But none of that stuff's in Metal Gear Solid 1. And so it's like, yeah, this happens all the time. Yep. So it's just weird because everyone's really excited about it, but it's good that you told me because I probably would have done the same thing. Like, oh, where's that upgrade that they talked about?
Yeah. And if you, no wall running. And if you live in Japan, also, apparently the game is being like way toned down.
They're censoring Keanu Reeves. I knew it.
They're censoring. They took Keanu Reeves out. Apparently, like, okay, there's no nudity. Anybody that's naked in the Japanese version will be wearing underpants. Some of the like melee violence has been toned down, and any of like the advertisements that show genitalia throughout the game, you saw the one with the cola and the big bulge or whatever, like that's all going to be changed in the game as well.
But you're saying this is in Japan.
In Japan only. Literally, Australia is getting a more open version of Cyberpunk than Japan.
What the fuck happened here?
I don't know. Like this particular thing doesn't say, but I'm like, why? Is Japan like? I feel like I've seen so many genitals and wait, no, they do censor the genitals. So maybe that's what it was, is that if it was going to come out in Japan, they would have had to pixelate. Because I think the difference being that there's like just straight up dongs in this game. And then in Japan, you got to put a bunch of pieces of black electrical tape over the dongs.
I guess that's true.
Because otherwise it's considered bad. But if the electrical tape is on there and then over the hoo-has and the wing-wangs. And
this is all America's fault, by the way.
Yes.
Look it up.
Yep, it is.
This is a real thing that happened after World War II.
So that makes sense. The one thing that doesn't make sense to me is toning down any amount of violence for Japan, because I've seen Berserk.
Sense, yeah.
Like, and Fist of the North Star.
We've watched any anime at this point is way more violent than most anything in America.
Yeah,
their Pokemons are worse than ours, kind of thing.
Yeah,
if you're curious, like there's what the fuck?
Yeah, and then apparently they're also going to be taking out some of the sex stuff that's in the game as well. So
replacing it with sparkles.
I don't know, dude. I would play that game. I would play the sparkle game. I would also play if there was a mod that took all of the realistic characters of Cyberpunk and then just fucking glued big anime eyes onto them. Like those pictures of sharks where they put the anime eyes on them.
That would be great. I'd pay money
Keanu
for
Reeves
that.
shows up with big anime guys.
Are gonna help me, Baka?
Yeah. Apparently there was some other stuff from last week. You could pet a cat.
Neat.
That was something everybody was
curious about. Did they censor
the cat? I don't think so.
Pixelated cats.
Different type of cat. But yeah, it was very just strange to me to be like, oh, okay.
When you started saying censored, I didn't expect the ending to be in Japan.
Yeah.
That makes no fucking sense.
They should have just put the black electrical tape over it, and then it would have been fine.
After watching you play Sengara, Kangara, whatever the fuck those games are, that's why it's the most shocking.
Yeah. Well, there aren't any dongs in Senran Kagura, right? Like
it gets dangerously close, though.
That's the thing that I'm wondering if what this is all about is not because of the advertisements, because of that advertisement with the bulge on it.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is if this is not about titties, this is about dongs. Like,
I guess that makes sense.
Because there aren't that many games that have full dong in them.
Yeah, they're not.
Like, I could think of there's that one point in...
There's that Conan game.
Yeah, the Conan game, and then there's that one part in Liberty City Stories and the Lost in the Dam.
Oh yeah,
where he
that
stands
was a
up
thing
and
that
then fucking
happens.
full frontal. But there's not a lot of dongs in games, so I bet that's what it is. I bet that they don't give a shit because it's just that they don't want to see any dicks on anybody.
Should have just made him a 10,000-year-old vampire. It's fine.
Yeah. I don't know though. Maybe there'll be some dicks in Code::Sin, the 10-cent, what I assume is multiplayer ripoff of Cyberpunk 2077 that's getting made.
It's an interesting idea.
They announced this and said that they're basically making like this Cyberpunk game that has like 3 different factions, and you've got an avatar. You could super customize your avatar, and then you got like a cyber pet. There's no real details on like what you're actually doing in the game or whether there's any single player. This reeks to me of a multiplayer, like a 8-on-8.
Well, absolutely. Just looking at the character model there and the fact they have a cyber pet screams this is a multiplayer game.
Yeah,
and it's also kind of weird how much it just looks like other random things at the same time. Like, I made this gag when he showed it to me. I was like, do you kids like Harley Quinn? Because we have a character that kind of looks like Harley Quinn. Do you like bears and Joker?
Yeah, here's a bear with Joker makeup on.
I love this Joaquin Phoenix cyber bear.
It's funny because I was thinking about it, and it's like Tencent has been doing a lot recently. Because I think last week, right, they're making that Pokemon MOBA that everybody's mad about,
that's right? Yeah.
So
that was happening.
yeah. I haven't. I even have gone as far as to think about downloading the Pokemon toothbrush app.
You can do Let's Play that?
I'm going to do a full Let's Play of Pokemon Smile. I was saying this to you before we started, is that like, this game looks kind of all right. Like, it kind of looks all right, but I get the impression that's all just the Unreal Engine doing the lighting and the particles and, reflections and stuff. That,
I
like,
definitely get that too.
the character models, the models in the world are not exactly like the most high fidelity thing, but that the Unreal Engine is really good these days at even taking basic stuff and making it look really good. So,
well, the hologram lady in the back kind of tells me that it might just be the Unreal Engine kind of thing.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm almost certain there's not going to be like a single player.
I'm sure it's fine.
Okay. Speaking of China, let us never forget how shitty Blizzard is. This is not about China, but that was my segue. So love it or hate it, that's who I am. Did you know this story? So
I guess I did not, if it doesn't involve China.
Okay, so apparently a little while, you remember last year when Activision Blizzard laid off a whole bunch of people?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the people who got laid off was a community manager for Blizzard. And, like, do you also remember that, like, a few days after, like, it was like a couple of weeks after all those layoffs happened, they went to go hire people? Like, they laid all those people off for, like, for the bottom line, right? So they could show the right numbers. And then like later on, they went to go staff back up. So one of the people that was laid off was this Christina lady. And apparently somebody went on and they were like, this is Chris Atalas on Twitter, was like, have a love for @play Hearthstone, passionate about community, wanting to work at Blizzard_Entertainment. If you answered yes to the above, come join the team. And it's like a thing for a career. And she just commented, are you fucking serious right now? Like, as somebody who got fired not that long ago. Well, this woman is married to a pro Hearthstone player. And apparently, at a certain point, Blizzard asked him, basically wanted him to not sign an NDA, but agree that anything that he saw during his Hearthstone, he would not communicate to his wife because she had expressed anti-Blizzard sentiment.
What the fuck?
And he said no, and then they started not inviting him to things. So the headline on this is like, Hearthstone pro blacklisted because wife thinks Blizzard is stupid or something like that. It's a little bit more complicated than that. And Blizzard actually did put out a statement saying that they were like, from their perspective, what it was that a lot of times when they have somebody that's in the pro community, they're going to end up seeing and hearing things that are not privy to the general public.
Yeah.
And then they know that his wife has a bone to pick with them. So, like, let's say he sees something that's not supposed to be announced for 2 months and then goes home and tells his wife about it. And then she gets up in the middle of the night. She's like, fuck those fucking assholes over fucking here. Oh, look at this. You're going to put fucking May in Heroes of the Storm. Heroes of the Storm. Yeah. Boom, tweet. And then on the other hand, though, again, Blizzard needs to shut the fuck up and chill the fuck out.
They
because
really do.
They haven't stopped yet. And I feel like we haven't gotten over Blitzchung and Warcraft 3 and like...
This is pretty much all within like the span of like a year or two. Not even kind of thing.
Was Diablo Immortal last year? Or was that the year before?
That was the year before, I think.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Like everybody's all pissed off about
I can't
Overwatch.
tell. Time is ridiculous.
Yeah. Did you know that we are now halfway through 2020?
We barely made it halfway through. Somebody was telling me, I don't remember what it was. They're like, did you remember that came out in January? I'm like, oh, fuck, it did? I didn't even remember what it was, but I was caught off guard by it.
Well, it's funny to me because I'm like, hey, do you remember in January when we could all like walk around and go outside and fucking meet each other at the bar and like do shit, go to people's houses and like, go get food at a place?
Oh, I remember it was Parasite winning Best Picture. They're like, they're like, you realize that was February, right? I'm like, oh my God, that was.
Yeah. Yelling, yet not... suppressing the urge to yell at the guy at fucking Chipotle making my food and saying, you have to have the mask on over your nose too, ding dong. Like, it doesn't work if you've got it over the one air hole, but not the other air hole. Come on.
I can't deal with the timeline, man. I can't tell what day it is half the time.
It's both going like super fast and slower than anything
exactly
at the same time. I have no idea what to do.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they're like, I don't remember. Something came out yesterday, and I was like, oh, it's like, is that out already? He's like, yeah, it's July. I'm like, when did it become July? I don't. What?
Yeah, I'm like, are we still in May? Isn't this May?
I thought it was June still. I thought it was June for like at least 3 hours.
Yeah,
and that was this morning.
In any case, they did reinstate this guy back in after this shit came up public, but let us not forget that Blizzard has work to do to not be garbage. They're kind of just garbage right now.
They destroyed their entire credibility pretty fast.
Yeah, and it's like they just need to chill the fuck out, shut the fuck up, and like not do anything to go. Of course, you know what? I say that, Michael. I'm not sure that there's anything. I'm not sure that the only move that Blizzard has to not be roasted on Twitter is not just to like never do anything. Don't have any tournaments. Don't release any games. Make no updates, announcements, or patches. Just fucking like
disappear.
Turn off the lights and lock the door and pretend like nobody's home for 6 months.
Just ghost on everybody.
Yeah.
Kotaku's like, you guys working on anything? And says return the sender.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, from there, let's talk about another interesting story that I found last week. So, Michael, this is a very fun story.
What's happening?
There's some heavy stuff going on this week in the podcast. This story is not heavy. Right. So last week, Discord put out an announcement that they want to move away from being gaming focused to being like everybody focused, right?
Yeah.
Like Discord can be for everybody. Okay. That's part one. Part two. Did you know that the U.S. Army has a eSports team?
No, I did not know this.
Well, now you do. And that eSports team has a Discord server and a Twitter account. So when Discord posted this on Twitter, the official Army eSports account tweeted "ooh" and a bunch of hearts to this about Discord. So some people online were like, yes, ooh, I killed a bunch of women and children. And I think they got banned. But this started, I don't believe these words I'm about to say. This started a thing, and only in the fucking internet, only in this future that we live in. This started a trend of people doing speed runs to see how fast they can get kicked and banned from the U.S. Army eSports Discord server.
Oh my God.
So, like, there's literally speed runs of people, like, and the people have found originally that, like, if you post the Wikipedia article for U.S. war crimes, that should banned pretty quickly. But people are literally capturing video of going into the U.S. Army Discord server and then seeing how fast they can get banned from it.
And the 14 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's literally listed as like speed run any percent. How fast can I get banned from the U.S. Army's eSports server? And it's pretty fucking incredible. Like,
I love
it's
this.
pretty great.
I love everything about this.
Yep. And the Army, strangely, the Army has also been at least like kind of a good sport about it. At the like there was a thing at the end. They disabled the entry channel into the server. They switched to like invite only, and they said thanks for the fun night. Technically, though, one of their admins' account is called Uwu, is UWU. Like, this is one of the people doing all the banning. But like, only in the year 2020 do we have a story about speed running bans on the United States Army eSports Discord server.
Yeah.
What? So
Cyberpunk is now.
That's right. That's right. But no dicks.
No dicks.
No dicks. Just in Japan. Just in Japan. Everybody else is fine with dicks. Yeah, it's kind of insane. Speaking of insanity, we got a brand new trailer that was leaked a little bit ahead of time. We knew that Crysis was getting a remaster and it was coming out pretty soon, but we actually saw a trailer that got leaked online a little bit before last week. This trailer is very Crysis-y, but a lot of people online have pointed out that it doesn't look super good. Like, for a game that even now, like, if you install it and jack up all the graphic settings, like, looks really good.
Yeah.
There's some kind of like there's been some commentary that this almost looks like medium settings when this game came out, as opposed to a quote unquote remaster of Crysis. You have you played Crysis?
No, every time I tried, it didn't go very well for anything I was playing it on.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those kinds of games that just like was so incredibly detailed for its time that I didn't know anyone who could make it work on high without spending like grands.
What did you think about this trailer?
It looks okay, like you said. It looks like a kind of medium. Like, it doesn't look like what I remember Crysis looking like when somebody showed me what Crysis is supposed to look like.
Sure.
Kind of thing. Especially, like, even then. And
you got all that 4K up in your eyeballs. It ruined you for Crysis.
Kind of, actually. Because Crysis also had, like, some of the most intricate mods I've ever seen for any game.
Yeah.
Because of how realistic it looked.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. And it's weird seeing this version of it, because it still looks more like a 360 game than what it...
Like an up-res 360 game, like an Xbox 360 game running on the Xbox One.
Exactly. Than what it was, shown to be. And it looks like it's being made by the same people who made the Ghostbusters remaster that came out, and that's all they really did for that too. Is they just up-resed a lot of it. Right. It looks nice because for what it was, but that makes more sense on that. But with Crysis, holy shit, you can make Crysis look almost as good as a game that came out now. Yeah, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so one of the things that's happening is that they are actually going back and delaying the release in order to try to work on it a little bit more. Crytek put out a statement basically saying, like, we hear you, we think that we can make this look a little bit better, we're going to go back and work on it for a couple more weeks. I don't think that a couple weeks is going to make the difference.
No,
because I think that the textures and everything and the lighting in the game is about as good as they can make it, and then what you're looking at is like level geometry, like the detail level in the game, not necessarily like how high res a room that is mostly a box with a sparse desk in the corner. Like, you could make that fucking 8K and it doesn't matter because it still looks like a garbage room. So
yeah, I
don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
A month is not a lot of time to work on anything.
Yes,
especially nowadays.
Yeah,
if this was a Super Nintendo game, then maybe. But
I mean, who knows? Maybe they can do some stuff with the lighting. Maybe they can do some trickery with the lighting and make it look better. But I don't know. I tell you what, they can't make better as long as it's online. Is a game that you and I played, but never saw the light of day.
Yes, played, quote unquote.
Crucible is Amazon. Oh man, okay. I don't know what the fuck is going on with Amazon games, but I think like the first Amazon games game was that one with the big giant ogres that Matt and I played that was so terrible. We'd like cut the arms off of them.
I don't even remember what you're talking about. I have a vague remembrance.
Shadow of the Colossus, but then you like zipped around a little bit, Attack on Titan style, and you'd like cut off their heads and shit. I don't remember what it's called. It was terrible. And I think that was made by Iron Galaxy too, who made Killer Instinct. But
Oh, that's unfortunate.
but yeah, Crucible came out, and it was supposed to be like a hybrid multiplayer PvP PvE. Michael and I installed it and played it for about 15 minutes, and we're like,
This looks awful.
"This looks awful. This looks shitty." And part of that could be my potato computer, but it also just didn't look fun to play. And apparently, Amazon agrees because they're literally delisting this game off of Steam and pulling it back into private beta in order to work on it before re-releasing it back to the public. Apparently, if you've bought a Founders Pack, which don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. You basically get like automatic invite into the private beta, but they are pulling it back to try to figure out how to make it fun again.
Yes, again.
One should have... I don't know. This is one of those things I feel like we've reached... Because as soon as I could tell, this was like a what? It was a battle royale, not a battle royale, but it's kind of like a MOBA almost type of thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like MOBA, then with PVEs and stuff like that. It's like I feel like we've reached that point in the MOBA cycle, and we're quickly getting to the battle royale part of the cycle, where like everybody sees what the new hotness is, and they're like, "We need one of those.
No.
We need a battle royale game." And it's like, "Okay, sir, I can start making one now, and I will be done in 2.5 years." At the fastest, and they're like, do it in a year, and they're like, it'll be bad, like, do it in a year. And so they do it in a year, and then in a year everybody's like, fuck that, man, we're all playing TikTok Scrabble now, like nobody plays battle royale anymore. Like, what, old man, come on, battle royale.
I remember the sheer amount of failed MOBAs that was being made during that craze. There was a DC MOBA. A lot of people forget about that.
Transformers MOBA. Dead Island MOBA.
So many MOBAs.
Yep. And I feel like we're getting there with Battle Royale.
Yep.
We'll come back to that thought in a little bit. But yeah, Crucible is going back to the drawing board. Hopefully it will not be bad this time. Another thing that people are hoping is not bad, there was a whole roller coaster last week where Crash Bandicoot 4 was listed on the Microsoft Store, and it had a thing that's in the description that said, quote, offers in-app purchases. And everybody was like, oh no! And boo, and fuck you. And then Toys for Bob, who are doing the fourth one, came out and said, we're seeing confusion about the microtransactions in Crash Bandicoot 4 and want to be crystal clear. There are no microtransactions in Crash 4. As a bonus, the totally tubular skins are included in all digital versions of the game. So that is that's like at the end of a movie where the screen fades to black and then it writes out the words, the end. No. And then it writes a question mark.
Yeah. There's definitely a question mark on that one
because Crash Bandicoot Racing, Crash Team Racing,
Crash Team Racing had the exact same.
Didn't have any microtransactions in it for a month.
Yeah, and they said outright, like, "Well, there's not going to be any."
Yep,
for about a month, and then they appeared.
Yep, can't trust these rat fuck Activision, man. Like, you cannot trust them. Or at least, I mean, like, not everybody, right? Like, I trust fucking, I don't know, CD Projekt Red. Like, I think Cyberpunk's going to be a good game, right? But, like, Activision has shown you cannot trust them.
No.
They are rat fuckers, and you cannot trust them. They will do whatever they can, regardless of how shitty it makes your game. Bobby Kotick is the devil. There's the thing where Bobby Kotick has the problem where when he tries to date and women look up Bobby Kotick, all the pictures of him have horns coming out of the head, and he's like, I don't like it. And I'm like, fuck you, buy a wife with all your fucking Activision Call of Duty money, you sick garbage.
All those microtransactions, you can't deal.
Yeah. I don't. They have not proven themselves to be a trustworthy organization.
They haven't proven that in 20 years.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. I mean,
we were looking up. I don't even remember how long this ago, but we were looking up like when was the last thing Activision did, and it was just like Call of Duty, like over and over again.
Yeah,
until we got to a couple remasters.
Call of Duty,
and that was like the end of it.
Skylanders.
Yeah, there was nothing. There was nothing all that original in their entire thing.
Destiny. Wait, are they Destiny?
They were.
EA? It's Destiny.
They were for like for a hot minute.
Right, but it wasn't profitable enough. No, Bungie's got it. Yeah,
they just threw them out. They're like, "Fuck you guys."
Yeah,
then they were to let them do what they wanted.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's good news. I'm glad for all the people who enjoy Crash Bandicoot. I hope that your Crash Bandicoot game does not have microtransactions in it. I would just say, like, don't exhale all the way.
Yeah.
Exhale like 80%, but keep a little bit of that gasp in there because there's a good chance that, I mean, hopefully if you buy the game and beat it, then you won't be fine. Also, it seems weird. Like, where would they put the microtransactions in a single player platformer? But
well, they proved that in Shadows of War or whatever. You can cram anything in those
that's
things.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Super packed that makes Crash jump slightly higher.
Actually, you know what I could see is making this game. I was talking with somebody in the Discord about difficulty, about making this game very difficult, like Crash is, and then like selling you like
masks.
No, like the first thing that I would sell you would be like a $10 microtransaction for infinite continues.
Oh Jesus!
Like infinite retries in a level, $10. Like, yeah,
Oh jeez.
Anyway,
giving them ideas. Somebody's writing this down somewhere.
Oh boy, we gotta go. We gotta get going. Speaking of things that are gonna cost you a lot of money, we got a listing price for NBA 2K21, and for the next gen systems, it was listed for $70.
Interesting.
For the previous gen systems, it was listed as $60. There's been a lot of discussion. This may be the beginning of a $10 price hike on the cost of video games. Now, I have a very specific. I've had the exact same thoughts on this for a long time. Developers will tell you games cost a lot more to make.
Yeah.
We have to raise the price, or you're going to have to put up with a bunch of microtransactions. To which I say that that is a very facile view of economics, because there's also what cost the market will bear for a good,
Yes.
right? If sourdough bread costs $50 a loaf, nobody's going to buy it.
Yes.
If it costs $48.75 to make and then $50 to buy, even if it costs that much to make, nobody's going to buy it, because they're going to be like, I'm going to buy the other stuff. So if you want to start putting games out at $70, I think that if you think your argument is strong enough, you should. And I have said multiple times in the show that if you were to make, like, I would probably be willing to pay like $100 for Cyberpunk 2077, based on, if I knew that it was going to be long, good, supported, and well made. I would rather actually pay more than have all this microtransaction crap shoved in.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens. What happens is that they raise the price and then try to sell you a shitty game for $70. And it's like, well, you said the extra $10 was because the costs all went up, but this game sucks.
Yeah.
So, like, also it seems to have microtransactions in it still. So what the fuck, Activision?
It's a tricky situation, because everybody already spends a lot more money, or not everybody, but a lot of people for really bigger games already spend a lot more money on their games than just the 60 originally.
Yep.
Like, I have spent so much money on Dragon Ball FighterZ, on Smash Brothers,
Sure.
on Street Fighter 5, those sick bastards.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Like, I've spent so much more, like, consistently on a lot of different games.
I bought the $100 version of Hitman that came with all the DLC that had the season pass. Like,
oh, neat.
Because I wanted I knew I was gonna. That was one of the few games where I wanted all the DLC, and I wanted it as fast as I could get it. But yeah, I keep. You make a very good point that a lot of the games that we play, we do spend more than $60 on. We just don't spend it all at the same time.
That's true. But yeah.
So
It's
I don't know.
happening though.
I think that the thing is that all video games don't cost $60 also, right?
True.
Some digital games come out and they cost $20 or $40 or $35.79, whatever, right? So if you think that you can make a game and you think that game, that the market will bear the raising cost of video games, I say go ahead and give it a try. I also don't know if right now is the time to do that.
No, right now is definitely not the time to do that.
Maybe read the room a little bit, and NBA 2K22 can be $70, and you'd be like, we've made quantum sweat particles in this new, it's different.
I'm
yes.
just waiting for the announcement to be like, it costs $10 more because you have twice the casino plays.
But you know what? You know how they could get me for $70, Michael?
What's that?
Is if they started selling games on the new systems, and they were like, there is a let's just pick one, and say like Avengers, right?
Uh-huh.
Or they say, okay, on the PlayStation 5, we have a $60 version of Avengers with microtransactions, and we have a $70 version of Avengers with no microtransactions. I would be like, give me the one that doesn't have the things.
Yeah,
give me the one with all the
same
stuff.
thing. Yeah. Just give me everything.
Give me the one that has all the outfits unlocked.
Just put it in my veins
right from the start. Even if I'm not going to like the game, I just don't want that shit. I want to take the pachinko game out of my fucking video game. Take the gachapon out.
Yep.
Oh man, we've got to go faster. In the words of Sonic, we've got to go fast. We must move quickly. So Xbox is getting ready to do their big chunk. We had the PlayStation chunk, and we're getting another Xbox chunk that's coming up. One of the things that's going to be happening is apparently starting on July 21st, moving through July 27th, Xbox is going to be doing what Steam did, and they're going to put a whole shitload of demos up on the Xbox store. Somewhere between like 30 and 60, like a lot.
Holy shit.
They haven't announced them all, but some of the stuff that they have announced is a lot of the stuff that they're talking about was already on the Steam store. So like Chris Tales and Skatebird. But then they also are doing Destroy All Humans and Hellpoint and a few other games. They've announced like 8 of them. But yeah, so it's funny because the more that I think about it, the more I'm like, I want to do this every year. I don't want to go back. Like I want where you have to let me play the games and then I get to make content out of them, and not just like watch your thing and have some guy be like, I played the new. Oh God, what was the name of that game that I'm thinking of? I played it at E3. First year I went. It was a Gravity game. It's like a bad Gravity game, like a shooter, like a gritty sci-fi shooter. But then you shot stuff with gravity. Inversion?
That
Is that
sounds
the name
right.
of the game that I'm thinking of?
That sounds right, yeah.
Anyway, and then also it appears that we're probably going to be getting the actual Xbox announcement on July 20th.
Oh, that's interesting.
But then the other thing that we haven't even talked about on the show, so if you get all your news from me, well, that seems irresponsible. But hey, is that we've been getting a fair amount of leaks that seem to indicate that there's going to be basically an Xbox Series S, like a diskless, slightly less powerful
that makes sense.
version of the Series X, which is codenamed Lockhart. And it appears that there's also going to be a Lockhart presentation in August. Yeah, with the sideways cover.
So inversion. Okay.
Yep.
I think George Lucas helped make that game or something like that.
Something went on with that game.
Something stupid.
You ever play that Avatar game, the one that was on 3D for 3D TVs?
I forgot that was a thing.
A lot of shitty games in the world.
Yeah.
And I know about most of them. All right, so in non-shitty video game news, we actually got the confirmation that the Devolver Direct presentation is happening.
Oh, yeah.
And we got a date for it, July 11th.
Nice.
So they're scooping the Xbox Series X. They're like, yeah, well, fuck you.
It's the parking lot all over again.
Yeah, that's right. Goddamn right it is. Yeah, so if you have never seen a Devolver Digital
You should.
Nintendo or a presentation, it's one of the few times when I can actually say with a straight face, Michael, you should go back and watch all the old E3 presentations from Devolver Digital because they're a narrative.
They're amazing. Every single one of them is amazing.
Yeah, and we're getting another one on July 11th. I can't wait. I can't wait to find out what happened to Nina Myers. The last one was the RoboCop one.
I think so.
It ended with the future skip.
If I remember correctly, yeah.
Come with me if you want to live, like in the apocalypse, when she finally comes out of the machine.
That's right, yeah.
Because they
I
have her in there doing the Nintendo Direct. She keeps getting nosebleeds and freaking out. I love Devolver Digital.
So much screaming in that one.
Hire me, Devolver Digital.
I love them so much.
In the exact opposite of Devolver Digital news, we actually finally got a release date for that dumb Atari console.
Is that still happening?
That it is. They did. It was a crowdfunding thing, so people literally bought the thing, and they can't just be like,
Oh,
"Oopsie doodle."
they could, but it would look really bad.
That's true. I mean, like, what? This is like the 8th time that Atari's tried to like come back from the dead.
I've tried quite a few times.
And this time,
Had to sell off.
I don't know if anybody remembers, but you're going to be getting access to the Atari Vault with more than 100 home and arcade classics.
Does it have ET?
I probably. I mean, I'm pretty
Comes
sure
with
that
a landfill.
with real garbage smell. Yeah. I mean, I like the look of it. I definitely like the look of it, but
It's nice looking.
It to me, whenever I look at it, though, I'm more just like, futuristic Raspberry Pi 4 retro games build. Like, I made this with a 3D printer, and here are all the steps on Imgur.
It's like $100 or something, right? Something ridiculously high.
Something. I don't know.
Like, all those games can be put on like my phone, and it wouldn't even take up not even a quarter of my space.
God,
probably
not even that.
Yeah. I always love that picture where it's like a high-res picture of Super Mario Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, this picture is literally bigger than the entire file for Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I love that dumb shit like that. And that's how Atari games are, even smaller than that.
That's why people should start trading ROMs on the internet. It's just encoding them into a screenshot of the game. And then it's like, why is a screenshot for Front Mission 4 2 gigs? That's weird.
That's how you do it.
It's very strange.
Remember when they made that Halo Atari game?
No.
Somebody
Like
made
a demake?
Somebody made a demake of Halo 1 for Atari.
Oh.
I actually played it, I want to say it was at the South by gaming thing at some point. This was like super early on when I think it was the first or the second one they ever did. And they didn't have a lot of stuff, so they just had that there.
It's funny because I don't have a lot of retro love for Atari. Like, I actually had Atari when I was a kid, and like, it wasn't great.
It's basically just Pong and Pitfall that anyone talks about.
Yeah.
And maybe Space Invaders.
Yar's Revenge.
Like,
there's some stuff.
It's a handful of things out of like the billions of things that ended up on the Atari.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
What about
Atari
that,
is not known for its nostalgia.
What was about beat 'em and eat 'em? Is that the one where the jizz is coming down and you've got to like grab it at the bottom of the screen or whatever?
That was
all those
thing.
weird like unlicensed porno games.
That was the thing about Atari as well, is that anyone could make an Atari game.
Yeah.
That's why Nintendo was so like fucking quality stamp motherfucker kind of thing. Like, don't you fucking dare come near us without showing us what you're making.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Nintendo, Nintendo finally announced and apologized for the drift on the Joy-Cons.
Did they now?
They did.
Wasn't drift compatible enough?
They said during the 80th annual general shareholder meeting regarding the Joy-Con, we apologize for any trouble caused to our customers.
Dun dun dun.
Apparently, though, this is okay. Further, we are continuing to aim to improve our products, but as the Joy-Con is the subject of a class action lawsuit in the United States, and this is still a pending issue, we would like to refrain from responding about any specific actions. So,
luckily, mine haven't done that yet.
Yeah,
I'm expecting it to happen eventually.
I play most of mine with the Pro controller, so I'm like, I don't.
I've done it a couple times with the normal controller, usually because either I'm playing a multiplayer game with my roommate, or the game forces me to use the Joy-Con.
Oh, yeah.
Which happens with that Pokemon game.
All that 1-2 switch you
all
play.
that 1-2 switch I play.
Yeah.
Got to make the ice cubes or whatever. Know how many there are.
Yep. My God, I remember we tried to play that on like the Ragecast, and it was like the worst game.
It was bad.
It was so bad. I couldn't get Grant to buy into it. I was just like, come on. And
the hardest part was you couldn't hear it very well.
Yeah.
Either, which that game very much wants you to hear what's going on.
Yeah.
And in the middle of a stream, it's not so easy.
No. All right, let's do some trailers. We got a trailer for, hey, guess what? Ubisoft has a Battle Royale game.
The what?
Battle Royale game from Ubisoft.
I don't believe that everyone's making a Battle Royale game.
Ubisoft has a Battle Royale game. Hyperscape went into PC beta the day that we're recording this, and they're doing that Valorant thing where you can get keys to get an invite to the beta by watching Twitch streams of the game being
just
played.
Go to Twitch, tell them how awful the army is or whatever, and then they'll give you a code or something.
Then you get banned, and then you get a code.
Yeah.
So if you
for
have
U.S. Army's Battle Royale,
right, you have to have a speed run below 5 seconds. Any on the Discord server in order to get access to Hyperscape. I don't know. This actually looks kind of cool, except it's a Battle Royale game.
That's my issue, is that every fucking time now it's just Battle Royale, Battle Royale, Battle Royale.
Holy shit, I just realized. You know what this reminds me of?
What's that?
Brink.
Oh, God, don't even say that. Don't even say that with seriousness.
I don't know. I do like the fact that it's in a big city instead of out in the wilderness.
That is one of the main things that makes it more interesting, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that it's all kind of cyber future-y. I mean, I guess Apex is like that as well, but this is like got a lot of
well, there's a lot more buildings
neon,
because even with Apex, there's a lot of just empty areas.
Yeah,
and I'm hoping that the actual real-world looking areas, even if it's still cyberpunky, will make it stand out.
Dude, is it happening? Is it finally happening? Is Cyberpunk going to be like the new thing for 4 years?
Maybe
once
actually.
2027 comes out, or 2020. What is it? What's the
2077.
2077? Yeah, there we go.
Because the 2020, I think, is the board game that it's based on.
Oh, that's right. That's
or
right.
The tabletop game.
But yeah, I hope that's the case. I love me the future, and we've been stuck in this fucking Witcher bullshit for too long.
We have been. But then they might bring back MOBAs, and I don't want any of that.
Wait a minute. Is there a battle royale like swords game? Is there a battle royale where it's like all swords and slashies?
Wasn't it that game that we played or whatever?
Do you have to be more? You have to be way more specific than
that. It was that battle royale that we couldn't figure out how to run in or something. Use the steed. It was something similar to that.
Was it like
axes
one of those
and shit?
Big multiplayer? That was one of those like chivalry style big multiplayer.
Yeah, something
games.
like that. I remember. I still want that to be a thing though. I want like an actual full on like. I want like. Did you ever play Anarchy Reigns?
Yes.
I want like a battle royale that's like Anarchy Reigns. Because that game was fucking great when you had enough people.
That's a pretty big ask right there.
It is. It is because that soundtrack is rad as hell. But I would love a game like that, to be honest. Another game just like that. Hell, re-release Anarchy Reigns and let you use bots in the damn thing. That'd be great. That was that game's biggest fucking issue.
From there, we also got a trailer for Ghost of Tsushima. We got a minute long. There's nothing really new here. It's mostly just like the reiterating the story. And
talks about fighting Aku or whatever.
Look at all these samurais, and you can slash them with your slashy slashes.
Do you like Battle Toshinden?
Battle Arena Toshinden?
Maybe you'll like this game. I don't think that's true, but I actually really like Battle Arena Toshinden.
It looks a lot more like Tinku, right? Like.
I could definitely see that.
But I'm wondering if I'm really wondering. We were talking about this before, so we got to just spoiler alert that we lost about 10 minutes worth of recording. So if we sound like we're glossing quickly, it's because we're basically repeating all the shit we just said. But I do wonder whether this is going to be one of those ones where people are getting their hopes like way up into the stratosphere for, and it's just going to be fine, and then people are going to be like, boo, I don't like this game, boo.
I still blame Sony for that.
Yeah,
all because of the E3 where they showed it off at the same time they showed off some stuff on Spider-Man and Last of Us 2.
Yeah,
they forced us to think it was a big deal.
What was the fourth thing? Death Stranding? Is it Death Stranding,
Spider-Man,
Last of Us 2, and Ghost of Tsushima? Yeah,
because that was the thing because they didn't have anything really to show other than the things they had already either announced,
right,
and some people playing instruments. Oh, they also had Dreams. Dreams was also there.
Was Dreams in that one?
Yeah, it was because they had the guitar for Dreams. Because that was the thing about this E3. They played a different instrument for every single one.
Yeah.
And the instrument they played for Ghost of Tsushima was a very, very specific Japanese instrument, played by the widest possible person you could see. But it turns out he was like the master of the instrument, so we all felt bad about making that joke.
Yeah,
as it turns out. But we all got really excited all of a sudden for a game most of us had not heard of.
Yeah,
and then I think it kept going from there. So
yeah. Again, because I was trying to do the mental math where I'm like, there was the E3 demo, or there was the E3 like teaser. There was a second E3 trailer the year after that. Then there was like the actual trailer, and there was that walkthrough, and then there's this. That's like 5 trailers for Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
And again, as I was saying before we lost all of our audio, I was also curious to know how many people actually played Infamous Second Son. I know a lot of people played the original Infamous, but like I feel like not that many people that I know played Second Son.
Yeah, it was a launch title, wasn't it? Or something like
it was very close
super
to it.
Early on. So a lot of people who I know ended up getting a PS4, they got it after that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of games came out right after that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people didn't go back. I know I didn't. Like, I wanted to.
Do you know it's got like a whole bunch of PS4 Pro upgrades? I actually downloaded it and checked it out, and it's like all the like neon powers and all that stuff. It looks great in 4K. It looks super good. In spite of my issues that I have with the protagonist, but you know.
That was how Infamous, I think, in general kind of was. Although I wish there was a re-release of all 3 Infamouses for the people who didn't have a PS3.
Yeah.
Also, the weird vampire DLC it also had.
I wanted to say Rondo of Blood, but I know that's not right. Something of Blood. Carnival of Blood?
Something like that.
Festival of Blood? Like Cadillac of Blood? I don't know what.
I watched my friend play it because I didn't have a PS3 at the time.
You remember the original Infamous, that his sidekick, like the Elvis-looking dude?
Of course I do. Yeah. I want to say he almost becomes a vampire in that thing. It's been a while.
Let's see. From there, we got a trailer for Fist, which it kind of came out of nowhere.
It caught me the fuck off guard when he showed it to me.
Yeah, is like a Metroidvania, but your main character is a rabbit with a giant steampunk cyber arm.
It's like if somebody made Zootopia in the steampunk time frame and gave Judy Hopps a giant fuck off fist.
Yeah, well, what's strange about it is that the whole intro for it is very kind of like cinematic and stuff, and then this like robot comes out and puts this steampunk fist on, and then it's like the camera just turns and it's like, oh, this is a side scroller, like
out of nowhere.
Yeah,
but man, does it look really fun?
It does. It's apparently a Metroidvania. I don't know. We were talking before about how I think that there might be some Souls elements in it when I look at some of the ways that the combat goes with like kind of blocking. That could just be me wanting everything to have a Souls element into it.
Because it reminds me of the Lords of Shadow 3DS gameplay. Because that was a very much like this, tries to be a character action game, but in side-scrolling ways.
Yeah.
With the blocks and the parry and certain attacks that look like they could have been, something more 3D environment like, but works really well in a 2D environment.
I think all the melee also kind of reminds me of Guacamelee,
I can see
because that whole kind of like melee focused side scrolling type of thing. Yeah, so
I love the idea of this thing though a lot.
Keep an eye out. Fist forged in Shadow Torch. What?
Yeah, that's they had to make it spell fist.
Okay,
forged in Shadow Torch, I think is what it said.
Oh, okay. Got to get that Shadow Torch. We also got another trailer. We got a almost 3-minute trailer for No Straight Roads. For anybody who forgot, this is the one where you rock and roll lady has to fight the evil powers of EDM in a futuristic city for the hearts of mankind.
It is the most fucking anime-ass studio triggered plot I've ever heard. Yeah, and I love everything about it.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I'm definitely down for what it is. It seems to be like this kind of like psychedelic thing where you're actually doing like music fighting, but it's like a weird platformer inside of these kind of fucked up weird spaces.
It kind of reminds me of that part in Scott Pilgrim versus the World where they have to do the battle of the bands.
Oh, where it's like Guitar Hero?
No, remember the Scott Pilgrim movie? They do the battle of the bands against the other band.
Oh, the Kadianagi twins?
Yeah, it's like how they're just sending weird shit at each other. It's like that, but like even more insane kind of thing.
I made a reference to that scene last week, and I think it went right over Matt's head.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love that sequence.
We're just like, this poster needs more question or exclamation points.
That's one of my favorite thing about that sequence is that even the writer is like, I kind of wish I did this instead of what I actually did.
Yeah.
Because that's nothing like it is in the book. Or
it's like a giant mecha dragon or something in the book.
Well, in the book, they just fight. He just fights the two of them, like in a normal like fist fight. Like it has a bunch of Double Dragon references because they're both like the twins with dragons kind of thing.
Right.
Like one of my favorite jokes in the book is they both like grab each other's hands and do a spin kick together, kind of thing. So it's the Street Fighter reference at the same time.
Okay.
But the way it plays out in the movie is just so much goddamn fun.
I watch that scene all the time. That scene all the time. It's so good.
Also have that part soundtrack because that part is in the soundtrack itself.
Yeah.
Because there are two versions of it.
Yeah. We also got a special announcement for Azure Striker Gunvolt 3.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad to see because even though I haven't played all the way through them, I played a little bit of the first Azure Striker Gunvolt, and it seemed pretty cool.
They're really fun. They're made by the guys who made the Mega Man X and ZX games.
Yeah. Which
were very popular handheld games at the time. The first two of these came out on the 3DS originally, and then they came out with a collection recently. And you guys should play them. There's also some Mighty Number 9 crossovers that you can find, I think, on the Switch and 3DS for them.
Interesting.
As well.
Interesting.
Because they have a really good relationship with Keiji Inafune.
Oh, you know what? I missed a trailer when I was looking through here. I don't know what happened to it. There's also a trailer. Man, this is going to be such a weird story. For this like Smash Brothers style indie game that's coming out that has like the roster is from a bunch of indie games. So it's like the protagonist of Dead Cells, the guy from Darkest Dungeon, the lady from like, not Jotun, but the one that's like that. Like one of the guys from that MOBA game.
Wow, what is this?
I hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. I got caught flat-footed. I saw it earlier, and what was it called? Oh my God.
Bounty Battle?
Oh no, wait a minute. This isn't something I was looking up for the podcast. This is something I was looking up that's going to be coming out
How did I not know about this in general, though?
Yeah.
It's got Guacamelee, Darkest Dungeon, Dead Cells, Awesome Knots, Nuclear Throne, Owl Boy, Axiom Verge. I'm not even going to read all of these, but there's a lot of them in here.
Yeah.
Fucking goddamn.
Yeah, it looks crazy. It's like all the indie games got together and let them use all their different characters for this kind of like Smash style game.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, this is not a new trailer. I just was looking up games today and I saw this one and I was like, I should have Michael on and we should play that.
That looks great.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this shit up and take a break. Let's see. We have some rumblings that it's entirely possible that we might be seeing Fable and or Perfect Dark pretty soon.
Perfect Molyneux.
There were a couple of Twitter accounts that were registered for @Fable and at Perfect Dark Game that just have placeholder, and they were registered by like Microsoft personnel. Microsoft released a statement saying that these are just placeholder accounts, yet they were registered in March. So
How did no one have @Fable, by the way? Like that, I feel like that's one that somebody would have jumped on right away.
Yeah. I don't know, but it would be, you know what? Like, I got to be honest, I've been having a hard time coming up with it, but like, I think it would be kind of a coup when they do that Xbox announcement if there was a new Fable game and a new Perfect Dark game, because
they lock Peter Molyneux in a closet, though. You know,
well,
he's just gonna make all the weird ass decisions, like trees will grow in real time.
Duct tape him to a pole, or have him out there, and then like he starts talking, and somebody just shoots a tranquilizer dart from off stage, and they're like, "Don't listen to Peter Molyneux. Never listen to Peter Molyneux."
I would love if E3 was still going on and they're announcing a Fable, and Peter Molyneux is just outside with a big old microphone speaker, just
promising shit.
Like, Peter's outside, take him down.
You know what'd be really cool is if they made Fable 4 and it was kind of just Fable 1, but it actually did all the things.
Oh, it's just what he said.
Yeah, they just kind of remade Fable 1, but then like remixed it so that it actually did the shit he talked about.
Totally be down for that, actually.
Yep.
The Peter Molyneux edition.
Speaking of things that people are down for, things that people are not down for, apparently is Commander Keen, because that mobile game got canceled.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I was literally just thinking about that not that long ago, because Doom Eternal came out. And the fact that like him, BJ Blazkowicz, and Commander Keen are all related to each other.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder where they're at with that game. Turns out they're not.
They're not. Yep. All right, let's power through the rest. Unfortunately, Super Nintendo World's opening has been indefinitely delayed.
Yeah.
July. It was supposed to open in July, but you know,
it's pesky Koopas, man.
You can't go. Can we start calling coronavirus the Koopa virus?
I'm cool with that. It's all developed by King Koopa.
Oh man,
the Italians.
God. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's not happening, and I'm sad about it because
it's super depressing. Actually,
I've seen all the building and stuff. Looks great. I really want to go there.
It's really exciting because of the big old bullet bill and the giant tunnels that look like the pipes.
Yep.
It's like, God damn, that would have been great.
Let's see. Also, in more exciting and less depressing news, Persona 4 Golden is out on the PC, and they are looking to mod a romance with Yusuke back into the game. Yusuke being the only character you can't romance because he's a guy and your character's a guy, and sometimes they don't like when the guys romance, but mod community is like, go fuck yourself. We're gonna make it so you can romance everybody.
The ship is sailing, motherfuckers.
Yep. So
can't stop us.
If you're into that, you can look forward to that sometime in the future. I mean, the fact that there's no voice dialogue in the game means all you got to do is slap together a few scenes, write some dialogue for it, boom, bam.
Oh,
doom,
somebody's
boom.
already working on the mod where it's just every filthy joke they could possibly come up with.
Oh, really?
Maybe. I don't want to be surprised.
I would hope so.
That sounds like something the internet would do.
I feel like I should be working on that. Just making all of Persona 4 double entendres and innuendo, and
just turn it into a fucking Naked Gun game.
Like a sex comedy.
How'd you get in here? I'm a locksmith. I'm also a locksmith.
In other strange internet news, the headline exists. Did the makers of Dead by Daylight nerf Pyramid Head's ass? Michael?
They might have.
They might have.
That's the thing. According to the internet, there's a big conspiracy to make characters not as dummy thick as they used to be.
Yep.
This all started with Solid Snake.
Apparently, there were some early screenshots where you saw the back from behind Pyramid Head, and he had a real round bootay. There were some other ones where he's wearing like a loincloth. You could say his round bootay, and then they finally got into the game, and like, oh my God, where's the roundness in his bootay?
They flattened him, man.
So it's funny because one of the developers actually responded to this.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because Twitter was like, what? They nerfed Pyramid Head's ass? And the response was, I I can confirm that while our art team did continue to polish Pyramid Head, his butt remained untouched. The apron covering his body was modified, which might create the illusion that his body was also changed. We leave it up to our players to discuss at length whether the change in garment has had a significant impact on his butt and how that will affect his performance as a killer.
That's amazing.
So I'm glad to see that they're playing along.
They're taking it in stride. Like, look, guys, his ass is fine. The cloth is just different.
Yep.
Do
and
that
last,
with what you will.
but not least, Michael, I'm going to need somebody to give me $14,700.
Fuck me.
Because there is a 6-foot-tall Evangelion statue that I kind of want, even though I don't really have anywhere to put it.
You have plenty of space to put it. You just don't like stuff.
I don't like stuff.
You can put it in your dining area. It's fine.
This is one of those Japan things where apparently somebody like made this, they like sculpted this, and then they 3D scanned it and blew it up to 6 feet tall.
That happens, though.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the person-sized Gundam model?
Yes,
It's like
I have.
$1,200. I
Yep.
think I want to say Hilario told me he has it.
I thought I saw somebody one time that had the Lilith from EVA.
Oh, yeah.
like in their living room, like a giant, like a life
Yeah,
size,
I
like a
heard about
person sized
that.
version
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
There's also that Hulk statue that the Austin Books and Comics have.
I tell you what, I'd say fuck all that. I just want that Gundam that they have in Japan, just the life size Gundam.
They're working on making that thing move, actually. Like, legitimately. Like, the Japanese government took... Okay, here's the thing. This is a true story, by the way. Okay, so there's two life-size Gundams in Japan. The first one is the RX-78-2, which is the original one.
Sure.
They took it down, and they replaced it with the RX-0, which is the Unicorn.
Yeah.
The reason they took down the other one is because the government has decided they want to put all their money into making a mobile suit that works, and they're using the original Gundam's framework to go from there.
I wish you guys could hear me shaking my head right
This
now.
is a real thing, by the way.
This is
The government, like, it's not like the government, like, full on is, like, paying for the thing. Like, somebody else decided they really wanted to make this Gundam move.
This is why we're falling behind, people, is because we are not making giant robots.
Exactly. And
Yep.
they really, really want to make that thing work. And the last I heard, that's exactly what they're doing to it, is they're working on that at this moment. In fact, they're releasing a model kit based on the designs they have for it so far.
All right.
This is a real thing.
On that note, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to answer your questions. Stick around. We'll see you in a minute. And Michael, you know what time it is?
Is it Comrade Question time?
Yes. It's funny because we haven't done any questions for like a month.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Because like there was the Sony conference.
There was a lot of conference
the
stuff.
PC gaming conference, and then last week it was like there's a bunch of stuff to talk about, the Cyberpunk and Avengers and all that stuff. So we have not done questions in a while.
Oh, jeez.
And we're gonna have to do a lot of questions. We got some really good ones here. This first one comes in from somebody who didn't sign their thing, so I'm gonna call you. What's a good name, Michael?
Comrade Question. I don't know. For some reason, that's stuck in my head.
I'm going to call you Vlad. Vlad writes in and says, hey, Jeff and Michael, no spoilers. I am not through the game, but when you know a game is going to be violent and dark, why are grown adults still going into a game getting upset about a game being violent and dark? Obviously, this is in regards to The Last of Us 2 and the hysteria over it being dark. Why do people just not play the game instead of play it and bemoan how dark it is? The level of violence in this game is not a surprise to anyone, and if you're going to play it, you should be aware of what you're getting into. And thanks, and that is from Vlad, and the subject line is M ratings for a reason. So I read this question, I thought about it for a little while, and I was like, all violence is not the same violence, right?
Yeah,
like,
no, of course.
There's a difference between I feel like when we rate something M for violence, like that could mean a lot of different things. Like there are a lot of games where you spend the entire game, shooting people in the face, and like, I mean, you're technically doing violence, but there's a difference between, say...
Well, there's a difference between, say, Call of Duty shooting someone in the face.
Right.
And shooting somebody in the face in a Naughty Dog game.
Right.
Where it's a lot more like the blood will fly.
Or, I mean, like, one of the things in The Last of Us 2, this is just, I mean, this isn't a spoiler, it's not even about the story, is like whenever, I always felt really bad because whenever you can run up behind people and take them hostage in The Last of Us 2, and like the way that you kill people like stealthy is you need to get behind them and you first grab them and then kill them, right? Yeah. And like when you grab them, almost all of them are like, hey, whoa, like fucking calm down. And then the first thing you do is just like sometimes when they're in the middle of talking and the camera, lovingly zooms up to watch the character slit that other character's throat and then for them to fall down. Like, let me put it this way. In most video games, when a character sees when an enemy sees another enemy dead, they don't like yell their name out and bemoan the fact that their friend is dead. Or another good example I thought of this is Grand Theft Auto 5 and how John never finished Grand Theft Auto 5 because he's playing Grand Theft Auto 5. You run people over, you shoot people, you do all your crazy shit in Grand Theft Auto 5. Yeah. And then there's a part with Trevor where you have to fucking torture a guy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, that's also violence, like, but this is a different sort of violence, right? Like, also, part of the themes of The Last of Us 2 are about, like, violence in a very realistic way and, like, how it personally affects people. And so, I don't know. I just don't feel like, that you can say, you know what? I want to take this a step further. I don't feel like you can say this in movies, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that the violence in John Wick is different than the violence in, I don't know, Way of the Gun, right? Like,
that's a good,
because they're both shooting people, but in one of them, the tone is very different, right? And there's no rating for tone.
No, of course.
And in The Last of Us 2, I also feel like if you go back and look at it, like, The Last of Us 1 has a very different structure narratively. Like, what you're doing seems, to me at least, The Last of Us 1 seems a lot more justified in what you're doing than The Last of Us 2.
It's a survival thing, whereas The Last of Us 2 is a revenge thing.
Right.
And so even the thing, like you're saying, the tone. So this is what I'm going to say specifically about it, is that one of the reasons people were a little more begrudging and bemoaning about how dark it is the difference in darkness.
Yeah.
Because The Last of Us 1, it's all about survival. So a lot of it's just, like, sure, there's some realistic killing to it, but the darkness doesn't feel that weird because you're trying to survive.
Right.
Whereas the darkness in the second one is because you're going on a revenge rampage, like, straight up. Like, it's full-on revengeance kind of thing, but it's in a realistic idea sense. And so you feel, and even the very story tone of the story is completely different from the first one.
Yeah.
To the point where it's the super dark sequel thing to a very lighthearted, or not even lighthearted. I'm not going to say Last of Us 1 is lighthearted per se, but it is compared to the second one kind of thing.
Sure.
Like, some people were expecting levels of dark that were the first one, not levels of dark that were a South Korean revenge film kind of thing. Because that's a literal thing I've been told, or not told, but I've seen on Twitter where they compared it to. Yeah. And if anybody's ever watched a South Korean revenge film, those things are dark as fuck kind of thing.
They very much are.
So it's like, they're two different tones, and not everybody's ready for that.
The difference between Old Boy beating somebody up and, like, Captain America beating somebody up is very different.
Yes,
beating somebody up. Like, technically they're both beating people up, but, like, there is a difference where if you watch that fucking hallway scene in Old Boy, you just be like, oh, Jesus, oh, God,
fuck. You're like, oh, that was cool, but holy fuck.
Yeah.
Or I Saw the Devil's another good example of that.
Yeah,
like,
I was actually just thinking of that.
Horrible, horrible shit that happens in every scene. Because you're like, oh, that's great, but you're also like, oh, dear fucking God, the entire time.
Well, I mean, like, okay, let me put it a different way. Like, The Last of Us 2 goes a long way to try to humanize the enemies that you're fighting. Like, even having them talk. Like, you can have them you just like listen to them talk about stuff, right? Yeah. There's some narrative stuff where The Last of Us 2 is very much trying to present to you that these bad guys are not just faceless enemies, right?
Yeah.
It also kind of goes in, like, if you applied the standards of The Last of Us 2 to, like, people have this, they talk about this all the time, to like Uncharted, where Nathan Drake just fucking like rolls up into a place and just starts massacring hundreds of people. Like normally a game doesn't point that out. Or, you know, there are plenty of movies, there's plenty of anime, there's plenty of TV shows where you've got like the quote unquote bad guys. And sometimes a story will go a long way to humanizing who the bad guys are to make a greater point about violence. And I think that that's what you're running into here, is that if The Last of Us 2, if all of the enemies in The Last of Us 2 were infected, I don't think anybody would be bemoaning the dark violence, right? And if you, I mean, like I literally set infected on fire with a flamethrower in that game, right? Like, and I didn't feel bad about it. I wasn't like, no, Jimmy, you had a wife. Like,
now I'm setting you on fire or whatever.
You know, I saw a bunch of monsters that were trying to kill me, but that's like, it's different in this game. It's not a 1-to-1. It's not just like 1 = 1 =. In fact, a lot of people point out, I really do like the fact that people point out in The Last of Us, or in Uncharted 2, when you break into that museum and Nathan Drake insists on using like tranquilizer darts and not killing anybody, but there's that one point where you climb up a ladder and grab a guy and just throw him off the side of a building. And it's like, Nathan, buddy, you just said we shouldn't kill anybody, and now you're throwing people off buildings?
That dude's
like,
mega dead. Like, there's no amount of tranquilizers that did not kill that man.
Or like, I mean, you know, if you were watching a Batman movie and Batman like knocked a guy out, and then the movie just stopped and showed you that guy has like neurological damage from being knocked out by Batman, and he's got to go to like the prison physical therapy, and like his wife who he's estranged from and his 5 kids that he has a really tenuous relationship with like come to visit him in prison, and he's like all fucked up and depressed, but then he finds Jesus. You would be like, what is this? I didn't need to know all this. The guy was a bad guy. He got punched by Batman.
It's like that Harvey Birdman episode where he takes out the guy in the beginning, and the guy comes back years later to sue him.
Oh right, yes,
paralyzing him.
Yeah,
it's like that, but serious
kind
of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that like and you know what, the point that you're getting here might be that like maybe there's a rating, maybe there's a separate scale for like fucking
there's MK11.
Emotional violence.
Yeah, MK11 is goofy ass violence. It's dark as shit, and it's probably even more bloody.
Yes.
But it's goofy as hell.
Yeah.
And then you have The Last of Us, where it's definitely not goofy as hell.
Right.
It's like the Mask movie and the Mask cartoon, or the Mask comic book. They're the same level of violence, but something horrible happens in one of them.
Right. So I don't know. I don't think it's a 1-to-1 is all I'm going to say.
It's difficult.
I think that just seeing that a game is rated M, even if you were to watch the trailers for The Last of Us 2, they were very ambiguous. Like we talked, or I don't know if it was part of the part that we lost in the beginning, but we talked about how like one of the biggest things that they showed in The Last of Us 2 before it came out was that big cutscene in the dancing with Dina part. And then when they showed the game, a lot of what they showed was like traversal, shooting infected, right? They hid a lot of that stuff. And so I even feel like there's a question about, if you were going to go buy The Last of Us 2 and all you knew was like 10 out of 10 and you've watched the trailers, like you might not be ready for the levels of emotion that are in this game. I don't know, you know?
No, that's pretty much the point we're making, is that there's R ratings and then there's R ratings kind of thing. There's watching fucking shoot 'em up, and then there's watching Schindler's List. like it's like the level of emotion that you're walking into, you might not notice right away.
Right.
Somebody's just going to tell you that this movie is really good, and you're going to be like, that sounds great, and then you walk into it and you're emotionally devastated kind of thing.
In fact, let me just go one step further and say, I really wanted to make this point. I feel like I've made it a few times in like tertiary, but we haven't had a question podcast for a while. I think that the actual combat system of The Last of Us 2 is great, and I like the way that you get to run around and kill everybody in it. I wish it was in a game that wasn't like trying to make a point about violence and emotion, because at that point it's like, well, you fucking ruined it. You ruined all the murder fun that I was having, because that's what we do in a lot of video games, right? Is we shoot people. Like there's not stealth mechanics, or there's some stealth mechanics, but there's not enough stealth mechanics to get through all of Last of Us 2 without shooting anybody. Like there's no pacifist run for the last. Somebody's actually probably done that at this point.
They're probably working on it right now, but they can't. It's just not plausible. Like it's.
And there's also some levels of violence in that game that aren't even under the player's control.
Yeah.
In cutscenes, in things that happen. Like if you watch the 3 videos that Grant and I put up, you will see that there are cutscenes and there are big story things that happen that as a player I had no control over. And I just ended up watching a very violent thing happen on the screen.
Here's the thing: if you watch all 3 of those, just pay attention to how Grant reacts to The Last of Us 2.
Yes.
And that's the kind of thing he knew The Last of Us 2 was a violent thing.
Yeah,
he was not prepared for that, and that's literally how it is for a lot of the people who play who are playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time on this, but that's just what it is.
I think so.
There's a lot of discussions about that sort of thing.
I think so. I think so. All right, let's see. Next up, we've got Mauricio, who we haven't answered a question from in quite a while. He says, hey, guys, I'm super exhausted right now because I binge played for 8 hours straight towards the ending of The Last of Us 2. It took me 20 hours. So we all know the issue with the game, so I'm just going to go for the question. What was a game that you played before that it really felt unnecessarily long and you wish that it was shorter? Could be any game, any good game or bad game. Thanks, and that's from Mauricio.
It's been a while since I've thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be a thing that came up every now and then, but I haven't really had that issue that much only because I haven't. Sometimes
you're
I haven't
not
even
playing. You're not playing these games all the way to completion, right?
So they're too long.
They're too fucking long, right?
They're really long.
So like every game, that's your answer.
Yeah, kind of. Like I love Persona 5. Don't get me wrong. I love the Persona games.
Sure,
but they're fucking long as hell.
I wish they would get to the point a little faster.
Like JRPGs in general just tend to be my answers nowadays. It's like sometimes I think a game is great, but sometimes I don't want to deal with going to work in the middle of the game kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Looking at you, Shenmue, you fucking crazy bastard.
RPGs used to be 20 hours long.
Yeah.
That used to be a long game. And like that's perfectly functional. But I even thought about going back and playing Tokyo Mirage Sessions again, but that's like 40 hours. And that's work, man. That's a work week right there.
Like the Fire Emblem games are great, for instance, but damn, like you remember when we looked up how long it takes to beat the new Fire Emblem? It was like 80, I think, something like that.
And I did it. The 3 houses, I did that shit.
That's crazy.
And it was like by the time I got to the end, I was bored. I don't know. I mean, like again, The Last of Us 2. I think that part of my emotional exhaustion with The Last of Us 2 was that if it had been a shorter, tighter game, it would have been better. Right?
Yeah, Uncharted 4 is one that we've brought up before.
Uncharted
that one
4,
definitely.
Yep.
Every Uncharted game that has a flashback in it,
mm-hmm.
the flashback was not needed for the most part. Which is at least Uncharted 2 through 4, I think.
I'm trying to think. The problem is, okay, so here's the problem that comes with this particular question is that in a lot of ways the question of if a game is too long is tied like specifically to how good the game is. Because like God of War is a long game,
yeah,
but I was into God of War, so I just I couldn't put it down,
Well, I think what it comes down to is the story and the gameplay gripping enough to keep me going for that long.
Right.
And the thing about God of War is the gameplay, the story, even the world building is super intricate to the point where I'm totally cool with going through that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy VII, on the other hand, it's interesting up to a point, but then if it's going to force you to do things you don't care about, then you're going to find yourself not wanting to keep going.
I mean, one of the other things that may be worth bringing up in relation to this question is pacing, where I feel like God of War never puts you into downtime for too long. Yeah. Right, that it gives you some downtime, and then we're going to go back to fighting for a little while, and then we're going to have a little rest, and then we're going to go back to fighting. Is that like in Final Fantasy VII? The reason I finally stopped playing that game was because it was just like, fuck, I've been walking for like an hour and a half. Like I've just been in cutscenes and like walking around and listening to story beats, and like I'm not immune to story.
No.
I like a lot of people, I feel like I get this reputation of being like, come on, hurry up. But a lot of that is just because I think that sometimes games are excessive about the amount of exposition that they want to do before they go. Like, again, to mention Jim Sterling, when he was talking about The Last of Us 2, I think it was him, pretty sure it was him. There was a thing where he was talking about how like movies and games and TV shows have editors, right? Who cut things that while they might be good scenes, they were not important to the pacing. It was important. Pacing is an important thing.
Yeah.
Pacing is not something that you can just hand wave away by saying, well, it's a slow game. It's like, right, but it could still be paced badly. There can be a good slow games, and there can be good fast games, right? It's not that like just because it's a JRPG, because I think that if you go and I think that if you stop like and you look at Persona 4 or the beginning of Persona 4, because this is the last one that I played with Chris.
Yeah.
The dialogue in JRPGs a lot of time reiterates itself, really nails down concepts, talks about things that happened 3 minutes ago, like reiterates character concepts to a point where I'm like, I read all of this. I didn't need this much, right?
Yeah.
Like I could have gotten all this faster. You could have gotten to this way faster. Like I was thinking of this book that I was reading where I was like, I don't know that you need to introduce every one of these characters because some of them don't matter.
Yeah.
Like
One of them just dies like 2 pages later kind of thing.
Right. Or that you could combine the character. Like if you give me a line of dialogue and like the way that a character looks, right? Like in a video game, that may be all that I need. Like, you know, you don't have to say, hi, I'm Chie. I'm a tomboy. I like kung fu movies. What are you doing after class? I'm going to go work out. Oh, man, where are my gym clothes? Yusuke, give me back my DVD. And I'm just like, I get it, Chie. I get who you are. Like
if somebody walked up to you in real life and started doing that to you, you would be like, okay, I'm just going to slowly back away.
Right.
Because this is way too much information at once kind of thing.
Right.
Because pacing is everything when it comes to anything story related.
Right.
The Last of Us 1 has some pacing issues in it. I love The Last of Us 1, but goddamn, there's a lot of points in that game that's just fucking weird.
I think it's about an act too long, personally.
Yeah.
I think it should have been 4 acts instead of 5. So.
There's a specific part in the first one where you have to do this whole sequence with Ellie that could have very much been shortened because a lot of it's just walking at one point. And that's a lot of the weird things they'll do with certain games like this is they'll be like, well, walking is like, that's all moody stuff. It's like, that's great for like a minute or two, but if you're going to make me do that for 30 minutes, I'm going to tell you to go fuck off kind of thing.
When you say that, what it makes me think of is how, you know, when you watch an old movie, how like if you watch like an Alfred Hitchcock movie and a guy's like at the office and he's like, I'll see you tomorrow. And then they have to show him like walk down the stairs and walk outside and get in his car and start up his car. And his car drives away and there's like a shot of the car going across a road. And then the car pulls up to a house and then he gets out of the car and he walks up and then they show him open the door. And then the next scene goes. It used to be that they showed all that because they were like, if we smash cut from like, I'll see you tomorrow, Cindy, to then like opening the door to his house, audiences are going to be like, whoa, how'd he get home? I don't know. Wait, is he a fucking mutant? Did he teleport? Like
people will bring that shit up for some reason.
And like, I feel that some of this stuff, I'm honestly not trying to pick on Naughty Dog, but it's just kind of fresh in my mind. Like a lot of the backstory that's shown during the Uncharted 4 flashback, I'm like, I didn't need this.
It's
like,
very strange.
I
the stuff it
didn't
tells you.
need this. You could have put this in a side conversation between two people, like
something you read kind of thing.
Yeah, optional content.
The game goes out of its way to be like, this is why his name is Drake. I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like,
right.
I never cared about that.
He's Han Solo because he's by himself. That's
exactly. That's exactly. It's a perfect example. It's like some shit you just don't need to give a fuck about.
Yeah.
And there's reasons why adaptations of stories will just remove a character because it turns out that character didn't fucking matter, kind of thing.
On the other hand, just to say this, on the other hand, there have been some games, like somebody got really mad at me for some game that we played because the answers to all the questions that I had were in the codexes that I was picking up over the course of the game. And it's like, there is a way to go too far in the opposite direction. And I know, but I refer you to Halo, where when I started reading like what's actually going on in Halo, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is incredible.
There's a lot of great
Why is none of this in the game? This is fucking amazing. This is like some really good science fiction writing, or Destiny, right?
Yeah, Destiny's really bad about that.
Like sometimes it goes too far in the opposite direction. So sometimes, like, I feel like the person who got mad at me, they were like, you're always bitching about how they're just always exposition, and now you won't even take a minute. Now you're just asking these questions, but you won't go read. And they did that to save you the exposition. I'm like, yes, but it's not one or the other. Like I want the part where Kratos and his son are doing character development for about 3 minutes, and then I want a bunch of fucking monsters to jump out, and I want to fucking hit them with my big Kratos axe.
Yeah.
And then we'll have 3 more minutes of dialogue. Like I want there to be a better sense of pacing, so that it's not just. I mean, like I was thinking when we were talking about it. I know that we're very, very much stuck in the Sony mindset for some reason, but
because they have a lot of good storytelling games.
Probably.
I'm looking at you. That's right, Xbox. You fucking heard me.
But I was thinking of Spider-Man, where like you get a story beat, and then they're just like, and now do whatever. Do you want the next mission, or do you want to go do some challenges, or do you want to do the things? And I'm like, I just want to fuck around for a while. And
Yeah.
Spider-Man's like, go for it, buddy. The story will be here when you need it. I know that the last part kind of made it seem like this was time sensitive, but the whole world's going to grind to a halt while you beat up some guys and catch some cars, and then when you feel like it, you can come back to the story.
There's also a lot of dialogue during those time frames where somebody will call him, or you'll listen to a Jonah podcast kind of thing.
Yeah,
that just still adds like stuff you were thinking about.
Yep,
like in the background. I like that about that game.
Yeah,
a lot.
I was just trying to think of like the games that I've liked so much. It's funny because I was trying to find a way to shoehorn Hitman into this conversation, but it doesn't really apply because Hitman's a very different thing.
I know we've completely been talking about Sony, but I'm going to bring up just one Microsoft game that's a good example of bad pacing.
Yeah,
Gears 5.
Okay,
because it gives you that weird skiff thing to navigate the world, but there's nothing to do at all because of it, and
it's kind of going to dots and picking up upgrades.
Yeah, and it fucks up the entire pacing of the story, kind of thing, and it loses your interest even from the gameplay because it also grinds the entire game into a fucking halt, kind of thing. Mass Effect 1's also really bad about that too when it comes to the little Mako missions. Like I like the Mako missions fine because I used to listen to stuff in the middle of it, but it also still grinds a lot of the plot to a complete halt and a lot of the gameplay to a complete halt. So
yeah. I just think that there's I don't know. I was listening to Triple Click, the Jason Schreyer, Matty Myers, and other guy. I'm sorry, other guy. I don't remember you yet. I haven't listened to enough episodes.
He's the Shemp of the Three Stooges.
They were talking about, on this week's episode, they were talking about cinematic, like the talking about how games are quote unquote cinematic, and how that's like considered to be a positive thing, right? Like this is a way to establish that a game is like, legitimate and serious and blah, 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 because it's cinematic. And I so wholly reject that because you play a game and you watch a movie. Like you can watch the cutscenes in a game can be very well edited, but you also have to play it. Yeah. Like that's where I'm not just, this isn't a tangent. This is where I come back to like Final Fantasy VII, where I'm like, Final Fantasy VII looks amazing. Sound is great. Fucking the characters look great. The story is Final Fantasy VII. That's fine. But I have a controller in my hand. And there's a point in time when a game you set the controller down when you're like, okay, all right, this is going to go on for like 10 minutes and I'm just going to fucking sit back and watch it, I guess. And I don't like it when that happens. Like I want it to engage me. And so, when Chris and I played Persona 4, and we literally played it for 2 hours, and we had one fight, and it was just like, I don't think Persona 4 is a bad game, but that's a pretty big buy-in to ask for any player.
That's true.
Like, a lot of times I feel like people get weirdly stuck in their like genre apologism.
Yeah, that's. I'm sure it's fine.
They become genre apologists, right? Yes. Where people are like, well, I like JRPGs. So I want my JRPG to be as long as humanly possible. And, JRPGs are slow because they introduce you to the characters very slowly. So they're all allowed to take 4 hours to get started. And I'm like, I like JRPGs, but I remember when you started and then you were fighting stuff.
Pretty much immediately.
Like, you start the JRPG and it's like, princess, I'll love you forever. Oh, no, invaders in the castle. Let's all run out. And we're going to shoot. Or like the mechs walk up to the town and the guys come out and then you fucking shoot them, right? So,
like, we're apologists for games as well. Like, I apologize consistently about the cutscenes in Metal Gear Solid. The entire series. I don't even mean just Metal Gear Solid 1. Metal Gear Solid 4 specifically.
I do not.
Because, like, I'm willing to be like, okay, I get why you're not super into Metal Gear Solid 4.
Sure.
I super am because I love all that dumb shit.
Yep.
And I know it sounds hypocritical that me saying cutscenes and pacing and then bring up how much I love Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 for that matter kind of thing. But there's enough in there.
Cutscenes were super egregious in 2 or 3.
In 2 they were.
Yeah?
Not in 3.
Codec conversations?
Codec conversations, I don't
went
know.
On and on and on.
They vary, is the thing, because there's some great Kodak conversations that are not pertaining to the story.
Sorry, I didn't.
But Metal Gear Solid 4 is one of the runs I bring up the most, is because there's a lot of moments where you'll just kind of put your controller down because some of the sequences are so long. But I love that game a lot, and I'm very much apologistic when it comes to Metal Gear Solid 4.
The thing about Metal Gear Solid 4 that I will say is that anybody who wants to say that they hate Metal Gear Solid 4, bro, you do you, right? No. But the thing I keep having to say about Metal Gear Solid 4 is people think of, I feel like some people think of Metal Gear Solid 4 like Final Fantasy 6, right?
Yeah.
And it's like Metal Gear Solid 4 had the job of wrapping up like a 20-year fucked up, crazy story. And then, yes, there are long cutscenes, but when they're just like, 2-hour cutscene, I'm like, that's the last one. Yeah, that's the one that comes at the end of the game to wrap up the entire franchise into a bow until Peace Walker and then 5. So, anyway, yes, I wish most games were shorter because I want to play all the games, and I can't play them if they're all super long. So.
We all have 40, or I have a 40-hour week job, so time is limited.
More Last of Us 2 questions. Detective FDR writes in and says, "Hey, Jeff and Michael, when do you think subverting expectations becomes false advertisement? For me, this isn't entirely fair or accurate, but it's fresh in my mind. The Last of Us 2 completely threw me off in a bad way. I super hyped for some straight up goon shit, and this is not that kind of story. LOL. Anyways, I want you to hear your thoughts. Thanks. Take care. That's from Detective FDR.
That's a good example of a first question we had, to be honest.
Yes.
Of somebody walking into a game without, because they knew it was an M-rated, but they had different expectations.
Yeah. Well, especially because there was a trailer.
Yes.
That trailer had an edit in it. I'm not going to go into specifics that made it seem like something
thing was happening.
Yeah, something was happening that was different from what happened.
Snake was the main character, is all I'm saying.
Yes. Well, that's my first thought. Yeah. Was that like I've been tricked enough times that I'm just like, well, of course they lied. They always lie.
They've lied to me a bunch of times.
Everyone lies. Do you not watch E3 demos? Every E3 demo's a lie.
Absolutely. But Metal Gear Solid 2 is the most egregious of these.
Oh yeah,
and it's for many reasons. Because none of us knew Raiden was the thing. None of us.
They didn't show it in any of the trailers.
He's not. He's okay.
My
favorite thing about Raiden is that he literally shows up for 1 second in the intro of the Metal Gear Solid 2.
Does he?
Just 1 second.
Where?
If you watch the intro of the Metal Gear Solid 2, it's all stuff of Snake, and then at the very last second, when Snake is surrounded by ninjas,
right?
It cuts to Raiden's face for all of 3 seconds.
Yeah, the like a track screen, right? The movie that plays when you start the game up. Yeah, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking
He shows up for all of 3 seconds.
Yes.
So even then, you have no fucking idea that Raiden is going to be the main character of this fucking game.
Well,
those sick bastards.
The thing is that I actually think it's pretty sadistic too because they finish the tanker. Right? Yeah. And then they flash forward, and then you've got this guy that's swimming, and he's tugging like this into, he's got the gravelly voice. But the minute that anybody who's a fan of Metal Gear hears that, they're like, wait, who the fuck is this?
Like, who is that?
And they're just like, they keep calling him Snake, and I'm like, what happened to Snake's voice? And then it's like, and then they're like, haha, it wasn't Snake. And I was like, no shit, who is this fucking guy?
It was young blonde anime dude. And you're like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Why do they call him Snake? There was even a point in the, I always remember the trailer for Metal Gear Solid 2 had Snake running on the deck of the tanker with a grenade launcher.
And a grenade launcher.
And that never fucking happens. I don't even think it happens in the Snake Tales, if I'm not mistaken, but that came like way later.
It's just been a long time since I've done that part. But you get one gun in the entirety of Snake's section. No, 2 guns. It's the stun, the strength gun, and the SOCOM, and that's the end of it. And some grenades, but that doesn't really count. But you don't get a machine gun or anything. You just have your pistol the entire time.
Yep.
And your boxes, and that's it.
Grenades.
There's one boss with Snake, and that's it. And that's maybe the first hour if you take your time. Maybe.
Oh yeah, Olga. It's like, which boss?
Then my favorite thing about fighting Olga is that once she's knocked out, if you run up to her with a trank gun, you can give her horns with the trank. Because I used to do that all the time because it just looked like she had no horns. Because I loved playing that part over and over again because I liked Snake, and I was very bummed out that Raiden was the main character.
I just remember when he found out that you can use the freezing spray to wake people back up again.
Oh yeah.
But in any case, subverting expectations. Michael, I know why people don't like it. Nowadays, I love to have my expectations subverted.
It depends on what it is.
I got no expectations. I love to have them subverted. Kill Agent 47 at the beginning of Hitman 3 and make it all about Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't even give a fuck. I'd be like, that's amazing. A bold move, IO Interactive. You don't even own this property.
I was actually just having a conversation with somebody about this, about subverting expectations.
Yeah.
Subverting expectations is a double-edged sword. Because sometimes it is awesome as shit. a good example of that is the Batman Telltale series. That thing loves to be like, hey, you love this character in Batman. They're not anything like that, dude. And you're going to find that out very, very savagely, kind of thing, or in different weird ways like that. And that games are really good about that. It loves looking at your expectations and goes, you love that character? Well, they're not actually that character. They're actually a completely different kind of character, and they're probably the bad guy, kind of thing. You're like, wait, what the fuck? When did that happen? You're like, well, in this, because your expectations aren't what it is.
Sure.
Deal with it, kind of thing. But then there's the expectations of, like I mentioned, I already said what I've said about Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that, because you spend the money on a game hoping for something else, and then it not being that at all entirely it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's funny because I get that. I definitely get that. However, because I think that Metal Gear Solid 2 was like the first time that it happened to me. And then as time has gone on, I'm like, I'd rather have my expectations subverted. Okay, this may be a weird tangent. You know how my expectations are normally subverted, Michael?
Huh.
A game looked like it was going to be good, and then it was really shitty.
Oh, yeah.
And it totally subverted my expectations by being shitty. So I learned to like let my expectations go, because they never did anything. Like, if I was super hyped for a game and it turned out to be a really good game, then it was like equals. It was equals. It was like I was already super hyped, and then I played this game, and I was like, yes, it is as good as I expected. I am just as excited as I was a minute ago. But all too often, having high expectations leads to something down, because your expectations are high. Like, let's say you have high expectations, and then you go play that game, and it's just mediocre, and you're like, oh, no, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be. Whereas if you had regular to low expectations, you'd be like, I don't know, Desperados 3 is pretty good. Like, you just fucking run around like a cowboy. Or like The Last of Us 2, where I didn't really enjoy it, but then I also didn't really have any I wasn't like pumped.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that I feel betrayed or disappointed in that game were people who had, like, they were pumped for that game, and then it came out. But, you know, I even as early as it took me a while until I finally had to say, MGS5 is kind of at the bottom of my Metal Gear list.
It is.
There's
a lot of reasons for that.
Super hyped for that game. I'm even at this point kind of like on the fence about Cyberpunk.
Oh, okay.
Just because I'm pretty sure it's going to be good, but I can't be sure. I can't be certain. Right? I've been hurt before, so.
Well, I was trying to remember what game came out recently that was actually straight up being sued for false advertising, and I can't even remember what it was anymore.
No Man's Sky?
And I want to say it was something similar to that. Actually, I think it was, because of the multiplayer thing.
Yeah,
because that's really the difficult thing about, because he was asking, like, what's the difference between bad expectations and like straight up false advertising,
right?
Kind of thing. Is it depends really on features sometimes. If like, because to me, story expectations being subverted and trailers lying about the story, that doesn't bother me too much, or depending on what it is, at least. Only because sometimes it works out, like the Infinity War is a good example of that. Yeah. The Hulk was in a bunch of trailers for the Wakanda fight, and he's not in it at all, because it's just, Banner and the Hulkbuster armor kind of thing.
Or the Ragnarok trailer where when she breaks the hammer, they're in the city.
Yes, that's another example.
Instead of on the hill.
Although that one turned out to be like a script change or something like that, if I remember correctly. But that's the thing. But that happens all the time. It's like, story-wise, stuff will get subverted all the time. That one I can see not being false advertising, because sometimes it's just they're trying to trick you to be like, hey, you're surprised now, kind of thing. Right. And sometimes, like I said, it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes it works out great. And sometimes you're like, well, fuck, I did not expect that, to the point where I'm not super happy about where I'm going to go at this point, kind of thing. Yep. And sometimes it's, like I said, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I don't think it's false advertising, especially if it's the story stuff.
I think I imagine it's very difficult because of the way that we built up the video game hype machine, where it's like you need to have a trailer, right? So like you think of all of the E3 trailers for BioShock Infinite that were for things that were not even ever in the game.
Yes.
Like technically that is false advertising, because those things were not in the game. But a lot of times it's like they're showing off a game 2 years before it comes out, and it could go through a dramatic feature shift between that point and when it comes out. Now, the answer to that, of course, is that I'd rather them only show trailers once the game is like 95% complete.
Yeah.
But the internet doesn't work like that. They got to build a hype machine. So I think No Man's Sky is probably the most egregious and public example of what you're talking about, where like people had an expectation of what that game was going to be. It came out and they were like, it's not that. I was always a party pooper skeptic about No Man's Sky. So when it came out, it was like, yep, it's what I was worried about. They were like, go anywhere, scan anything, just wander around and have an experience. And I'm like, what do you shoot? They're like, you just have an experience. I'm like, no, I need to know is there a story? Who wronged me, and why am I shooting them in the face?
Like, why am I anywhere is really what it comes down to.
Right.
And I was skeptical about No Man's Sky originally as well. And luckily, it turns out I was fine with that because we all know what happened there. And, they finally did, goodbye everybody thing.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. But like I said, false advertising, it vary. Like, it's the only way I can really see it being is with No Man's Sky, it was accidental false advertising. Because the guy,
it wasn't even trailers; it was like interviews.
Exactly, because the guy who was doing all the interviews was one of the guys in charge, but he wasn't a interview guy.
Right,
he's just the guy who works on games who didn't know what to say and was just being asked things and had cameras in his face, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, just get your shit out of my face," kind of thing. And so that was accidental that way. Aliens, Colonial Marines, though. Was straight up false advertising.
Yeah.
So speaking of subverting your expectations, because man, that game was bad.
Yep.
And everything they showed prior to that point was like a PC build of like cutscene stuff they did. That straight up was basically false advertising at that point.
I went to the E3 demo for it, and I kind of thought it looked bad there too, but I think
but who would have expected it to look even worse?
It's weird to me because I don't speak for I'm not the Lorax. I don't speak for the trees. I can only speak for myself.
Fight for the users or whatever.
Yeah, I just a long time ago I learned that like just keep your shit in check and then experience the thing when it comes out, right? Because I was having a hard time in my head understanding, and it might be because I've played most of the Aliens games that they've made over the years, and I think that most of them are kind of bad.
Yeah,
like
much.
A lot of people really like AVP, and I'm like, I think it's okay.
Was it the newer one?
No, the Rebellion one, and then there was AVP 2 that had more of a story.
That's right,
and that was okay. But this is one of those things. I'll go back to the movie thing, right? Where like, I think that Aliens works better as a movie than it does as a video game, because a video game, you are empowered and you're supposed to fucking shoot up all the aliens, and you're kind of abstracted. So it's like, I'm going to shoot up all these aliens. I'm going to feel real like tough guy. But the whole point of Alien is to feel like you are being hunted by this menace.
That's why Isolation, I think, was probably the best Alien game.
Sure,
that's what it was. The only issue is you're still a gamer, and your thought process is, okay, he's going to come over here because that's where the spawn point most likely is, kind of thing. And that's why that sort of thing probably doesn't work as well.
It didn't work for me because, again, I think Alien Isolation would have made a really good movie, but as a player, like there's a whole conversation to be had about empowering the player, right? Is that like, here are the tools that you can use, but they don't work on this invincible thing. I always thought that Alien Isolation would have been better if like you could kill the alien, but it just took like everything you had to kill that alien. And then like 40 minutes later, a new alien shows up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I like it when my expectations are subverted, because my expectations are usually very low and in check. But I understand why people get really excited about stuff. I don't know. I say this all the time about and I don't, because I'm Gen X and I don't know millennials. I don't know if you guys have come to this point yet, where it's like, haven't they ruined your whole childhood and like
they're getting that,
taken advantage of everything you used to love and like nihilistically made it into a product that then you shelled out money because you were super excited, and then it was a real big letdown because you were like, oh, this isn't as good as I remember, or you guys are just squeezing out a quick buck, or this is like a shitty remaster that wasn't worth the money. etc. Because that's what happened to me. They mined everything from my childhood until the point where there was nothing left for them to take advantage of. They ruined Star Wars. They ruined Transformers. They ruined Doctor Who. They ruined Metal Gear. They ruined Dark Souls. They ruined like goddamn near everything that I liked as a kid. G.I. Joe they ruined. They take your pick. Like, the only things they haven't ruined are things that like nobody in their right mind would ruin, like Jason the Wheeled Warriors, right? Like they're never going to ruin that shit.
Oh, they might ruin the Silverhawks. I don't know.
Silverhawks wasn't. Silverhawks one of those things where if you just go back and watch it today, you'll ruin it yourself.
Well, that's true with a lot of those shows you just mentioned, anyways. Though,
so I don't want that to come out like I mentioned Doctor Who in there. Like I have problems with the new Doctor Who, and it has nothing to do with Jodie Whittaker and everything to do with the fact that I don't like the writing on it.
Well, that's true for Yeah, the thing is, no one I know still talks about that show. So effectively, I think I got ruined somehow.
Right.
But that's like I don't know. With millennials, the expectation thing is kind of funny because they are still doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of them have turned out to be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like the Invader Zim, Enter the Forpus thing.
Sure.
Rocco's Modern Life thing was a lot of fun. Like, because those people apparently are still fine. They're still letting those people who made them do the thing, I think, is part of why it's still working out for millennials.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
And like, it's funny,
I know this isn't part of the question, but we're going on a tangent.
I've heard that Power Rangers movie was garbage, right?
Yeah.
But they're in like season 600 of the actual Sentai show that you could still watch,
which is also still really good.
Right. So like, they never stopped making Silverhawks for you.
Yeah, basically.
And it's still good.
We're all good is really what it comes down to.
Or
they just announced Crash Bandicoot 4 and I'm all for it.
Or actually it's kind of interesting to me now that I think about it, because I was thinking about you specifically, that you started watching Dragon Ball as a kid. They're still making new Dragon Ball now.
And I still buy all of it.
So it's like they don't make any of the shit from when I was a kid, or they
do,
already,
but whether or not you're paying attention to them is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, a lot of them have gone through different iterations to the point where it didn't make, because like I know a lot of people who like Beast Wars, and I didn't like Beast Wars because I thought the original animation looked good, and then I thought the crappy CGI in Beast Wars looked like bad.
It looks bad, really bad.
So I never watched it.
Yeah.
And then I stopped. I stopped Transformers. I was done with Transformers.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about because I have no expectations. I expect nothing.
It's tricky that way. Yeah, it's very tricky.
Wow, we spent like almost all our time on 3 questions.
There are a lot of intricate questions.
We're chatty today.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is another one. I'm sorry. We're going to do some Discord in overtime, but this one came in and I really wanted to address it. This is kind of this is a little bit heavier question, but I just wanted to say of my own free will. Leon Gard writes in and says, Dear Rage Slide, why do people in America still call Native Americans or Aboriginals or First Nations Indians, perpetuating the idiotic mistake that piece of genocidal garbage Columbus made centuries ago? I hate it when people are misrepresented, and the fact that genocide is just brushed aside and glorified in Western movies, which is why I don't really enjoy the genre for the most part. Thanks for the laughs. I don't want to come off as putting white folk down, but it really bothers me when people continue the mistakes of the past. Sincerely, your supporter since the Spill days, and that's from Leon Gard.
There's an easy answer to that question. It's called pop culture. Pop culture is the main reason most people still call Native Americans Indians, because for the most part, even when they still make things that take place during that time frame, they decide for authenticity that the characters are still going to call them Indians or Injuns, kind of thing.
I was going to talk about how I was just up there on my little Gen X pedestal that I don't normally get to get up on. But the thing I was going to talk about, I was thinking about this question a lot, and I was saying because I was born in 1978, right? Mm-hmm. I'm 42 years old. That's right, and I just have to think about it. And
okay, I wasn't going to question you on it. No, you're 45 because this thing. No, I'm not going to pull some shit like that.
For me, a lot of it is having to unlearn some very deep programming.
Yeah.
So, like, as a kid, when I went to school, in the movies, in every TV show, in school, the parents around me, and everything called Native Americans Indians. Yep. Like, that's what they called them. It wasn't until later that there was this correction that had to be made. So, like, the best way that I can the only way that I work on this stuff all the time. Like I was going to say, when I was a kid in elementary school, if Is it okay to say the R word out loud, or is that like a real deep slur now? Anyway,
that's a difficult one.
You all know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
When I was in 4th grade, we used that as an insult for each other, and it was bad, but it was just what everybody did. Like nobody was like, "Hey, that's hurtful. Let me tell you why." And when somebody pointed that out to me, I was like, "Oh, I should stop saying that." In the 90s, I was a teenager in the 90s. And we called stuff that we didn't like gay because that was what you did. And there was nobody there to be like, hi, I'm gay. That's hurtful to me. The minute that I met a gay person, I kind of started reevaluating it. And I was like, oh, shit, that's like wrong, right? So I remember when we were in Spill and somebody pointed out to Jason and I that like Eskimo is not correct.
Yeah.
The word for transgender people, the slang term for transgender people that starts with a T and ends with a Y, that is not considered polite anymore.
The thing is,
Jason and I used in the old days, and it was like, I didn't know. And so as time has gone on, what's had to happen is when I think of, because of the way that I was fucking programmed, when I think of Native Americans, the word Indian comes up in my mind, and there's like a patch that I've had to shove into my linguistic system to be like, no, it is this now.
No, yeah.
But it's hard to break that programming. And so if I say that stuff by accident, I apologize. I'm still trying to kind of like get my lingo to where it should be.
It's very difficult because the thing is that when I was growing up, all those things were very much still true. With the using R the way you would, using gay the way you would. In fact, like I literally used that way of saying gay like last Halloween on accident.
Yeah.
And I literally, like, after it came out of my mouth, I was like, God damn it. like after I did it, I was like, I can't believe I did that. Like, cause I hadn't done it in years.
Yeah.
since it was, since people have been saying it kind of thing. Even the trans thing, like I accidentally said that too, because I was talking to my roommate about Final Fight and about Poison and the whole thing about America being really weird about the fact of punching a woman. Mm-hmm. So for some reason, this is a real thing. For some reason in the manual to Final Fight in America was just like, hey, Poison, that hot chick you're punching in the face? She might be a dude. And you're like, what? Like it was such a random thing to do. And so I accidentally blurted out trans with with a Y on accident as the thing. And I was like, the second I said it, I was like, God fucking damn it.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't believe I said that. Because you have to force yourself, or not force yourself. You're trying to unlearn your own lingo.
It's like trying to learn to walk differently. Like,
exactly.
It comes as natural, and I don't want it to be.
Yeah, it
like
just
if I could
flows out of the tongue.
Eternal sunshine of the spotless mind, and like take the word Indian and like reassociate that half of it that means Native American with Native American. I'd do that tomorrow,
like,
right?
And like I said, even pop culture, like this, one of the reasons I brought up the pop culture thing is that even they are catching up to that. Because when I was growing up, all that stuff was still very much the truth until pretty much like the early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s, as it started going the other way.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that was
kind of started in the 90s.
It depended on what it was, though. Because that's the thing is, in the 90s, there was a lot of that stuff that was sort of going slightly different, depending on what it was. Like, the gay thing definitely did not really change until even towards almost the end of the 2000s, to be honest. Because I was still very much saying using gay as a weird way of saying things, even in my senior year of high school. And I knew a gay guy. And the funny thing about him was that he actually had fun with it.
Yeah.
If we said it that way. Because the only way we could get him to be offended by something, and he, as a joke, and honestly it was a joking thing, is we had to call him straight.
So you would insult him by calling him straight?
It was the only way, because that's
amazing.
It was one of those things that as a time, if you're like, oh, that's gay, and he'd be like, oh, that's great. Like right. If he said that, it's like, oh, that means it's awesome, and you're like, oh, fuck. So if you were with him, you had to be like, well, that's very straight of you, and he'd be like, well, fuck you.
That's kind of amazing.
And it was the only way, it ironically enough helped us figure out how to change our way of thinking.
Sure.
And we ended up slowly not using it. And he was one of the reasons I was like that. I slowly started doing it. But there was like maybe one gay guy in the entirety of a certain area, depending on where you were.
Yeah.
And if they're openly gay, like, that was great. Because then somebody was teaching you not to do that. And even the Indians thing, I didn't really meet any actual like full blown like Indians until I moved up here, essentially.
Right.
Because one of them worked. A lot of them worked at. It's going to sound stereotypical, but it's the truth. They worked at the 7-Eleven near my parents' house.
Okay.
They actually mistaken me for Indian. It's just really funny to me.
Or Native American.
No, like straight up, because I when I first started growing my facial hair, a lot of different people from India thought I was from India.
Oh.
Like straight up.
Okay.
like I've told the story every now and then because it was very uncomfortable. I went to the 7-Eleven all the time to gas up to go to college here in Austin. And I was talking to them and I was looking for work at the time. I was like, oh, do you want to work here or whatever? I was like, oh, that'd be great or whatever. And right after he said that, he said, which part of India are you from? And I was just like, oh, what? It's like, no, I'm Mexican. And I'm definitely not from any of that. And I avoided that for a while from that. And they weren't the only people who thought I was Indian for a long time.
Yeah.
Like until I grew my full beard, people still thought I was Indian with my goatee.
Okay.
For like at least a year or two. And that was one of the reasons I was finally able to fully solidify it. Was because knowing all these people as well as them also accidentally mistaking me for Indian.
Right.
That my thought process was now like, okay, when they say that, this is what they're saying instead of this, and then I stayed in that course, and that wasn't even that long ago. That was like at most 8 years ago.
Yeah.
8 or 7 years ago.
Yep.
Kind of thing, and like a lot of this stuff is still like it's really difficult to change your way of thinking. As much as I would love to say like everything I say is completely the same now. I was like, no, I'm still really bad about certain things. The funny thing is I'm also bad about pronouns. And it's not even because of, people who are trans. It's because for some reason I can't stop calling people guys in general.
Right.
I even call women guys.
Right.
But only because I hung out with guys 90% of the time. So if I leave somewhere, I just go, it was nice talking to you guys, and then I'm gone.
Right.
Kind of thing. So even if I'm in a room full of women, I'm going to be like, it was nice talking to you guys.
No, I agree. It hasn't been until recently that there's been anybody that I've ever had been close to that has had a gender neutral preferred pronoun.
Yeah.
And boy, it's just like
it's difficult.
I just keep saying the wrong thing, and I'm nope. But it's not something like, I guess the thing is that I'm not trying. And to go back to Leonard's question, I'm going to say there are probably people out there who very much are not making any effort to try.
Yeah.
And they're just like, fuck you, you can't tell me how to talk. And I'm like, well, I don't really agree with that.
They're like John Wayne said Indian, I'm going to say it. It's like, no, fuck
you. The way that I've always kind of felt about that is that like that's exceptionally rude and shitty.
It is.
Of a way to be. Like if my my full name is Jeffrey, and whenever people have that on a piece of paper and they say Jeffrey and I say I prefer Jeff, please. And if they continue to call me the name that I asked them not to call me, I consider them to be jerk-offs.
Yeah.
So, like, if you correct somebody and then you can see that they just have decided to make no effort whatsoever to do any work, then, like, I think that's jerk-off behavior. I think it's your choice what you want to do. Maybe jerk-off is even, I don't know.
I don't know how this works.
I don't either. All I know is my own experience, and from my experience, the pronoun thing is the latest thing where it's very difficult because
it's incredibly difficult.
My brain is just wired to refer to people by their gendered pronouns, and I have to, and I'm still in the process of like fucking applying the software patch to have my brain stop before it says that word, and then like correct in the way that it's supposed to. For Native Americans, I feel like I used to have a hard time with that, but as time has gone on, it's been reinforced to the point where I don't refer to Native Americans as Indians anymore because my brain is like, no. But there was a process that happened there. And I feel like the same is true with the pronouns, where there's like a process of changing something or getting rid of something. So,
and yeah, it's very difficult for a lot of people, and we're all working on it. And it's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
The main reason it's still happening is because it's still actually very early on, to be honest.
Yeah. And I mean, I again, not to go too far out of there, but there are some people that I feel like their whole that they have this argument against it of just like, I shouldn't have to do that. And I'm like, I don't believe in that because
I don't either.
Language changes and mutates. And if somebody, you know, if you want me to call you, you know, Zachary from now on,
That'd be weird.
if you were just like, hey, I want you to call me Zachary from now on, I would try to do that, and I might end up calling you Michael and say, Michael, Zachary,
Yeah.
like, you know, but I would try, and I think that's the big thing is whether somebody is trying or not. I think you should try to give people some credit for trying to do stuff.
Yeah,
so.
try like as long as they're trying, you should be good with that.
Like in a good faith way.
Yeah.
So. Oh boy! All right, we got like 4 questions.
A lot of tangents.
Well, it's been a while since we had questions. We're not used to it anymore. We're not just on point. Also, a lot of
deep questions.
Yeah. You know, these are not just like, if you could put Mario into any other game, what game would you put him into? And the answer is Hitman, so I could break his neck and never have him come back. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Let's do some Discord questions. Persian King 44 says, hey, Jeff and Michael, I'll keep it short this week. Is there a film that you absolutely despise with every fiber of your being? I try to keep an open mind about things and find the silver linings in any movie that I saw in the theaters. And most of the time, I either love the film, think it's okay, or just walk away being mildly disappointed. That being said, I've absolutely nothing but utter contempt for The Last Airbender and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I consider myself a big fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender and Jurassic Park franchises, but I cannot even begin to remotely explain just how much I fucking hate those 2 movies, lest I go into a really long rant. Hope your day is well. And that's from Persian King 44.
There's some that I despise, but I don't remember the names of them. That's the thing.
Made a big impression, huh?
Well, it's because like I never wanted to see them again, so I threw them out of my mind. Kind of like one of them was one of the first movies I saw for one of us. It was this movie with Salma Hayek and John Lithgow, and it was so fucking like artsy and up its own ass that I just despised it because I just hated it so much. And I listened to Corey's review, and he was like, I thought it was very artsy, and I was just like, wanted to flip a table.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of the ones that I absolutely despise. That movie where Scarlett Johansson drives a van and takes all her clothes off. I fucking hate that movie.
I wouldn't say it was just Drive, but I know it's not.
No, it's called.
I
like,
know what you're talking about.
Into the Night or something like that.
It's the one where she gets nude.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all I remember about
a movie where Scarlett Johansson takes all her clothes off, and I'm like, oh my god, fucking do something, naked Scarlett Johansson. I mean, oh, she's driving the truck again. Okay, I'll be back, Scarlett. I'm going to go get a sandwich. On the other hand, here's a movie that I love that most people hate. I think Lucy is fun as fuck, and I love that movie.
That's fair. That movie's dumb as shit, but it's fun.
Everybody's like, that's not how your brain works. I'm like, this is Luc Besson. Like, this is not Neil deGrasse Tyson's Lucy. Like, this is a dumb sci-fi movie.
I definitely despise the 3 that I can name that I despise.
Okay,
one is The Last Airbender because it's just a bad fucking movie. The other one is Dragon Ball Evolution. That movie was so bad, I thought my body was literally trying to kill itself.
Okay.
I was in literal pain.
All right.
I was having pains as I watched that movie.
You need to lower your expectations a little bit.
The third movie it just makes me like irrationally angry thinking about is Batman v Superman. Because that movie, just the thought of it makes me irrationally angry.
You know, I have to apologize, not apologize, but last week, Matt and I did the podcast, and he said something. He said he had some words for Batman versus Superman, and somebody in the comment section was not happy about that. And here we are, 2 weeks in a row.
Here's the thing: those people, I don't understand you. If you like Batman v Superman, I don't. Okay. I slightly understand part of it because a lot of the people I talk to who really like Batman v Superman are not Superman fans.
Sure.
So for the most part, they're like, I thought Batman was great, and I give you that. Batman's fine in that movie. It's that Superman is so fucking bad in that movie that that movie's just completely unwatchable for the most part because of it. Like, there's so much bad decision making through that entire story for everybody involved in that story. I watched the Ultimate Edition. You can't even be like, well, you didn't watch the No, I watched the Ultimate Edition. I tried to like that movie. I watched it 4 times because I tried to watch that. I tried to like that movie. It's impossible.
You know what? I'm gonna come at you. I'm coming at you. I disagree. I think Batman versus Superman while not a good movie, has created so much content around the movie that without it being there, we wouldn't even be able to make Martha jokes. We didn't even make Save Martha jokes. And like, you know, all the dumb shit, the fucking Bruce Wayne, and when he talks about the 1% chance that Superman might be bad, that's like a fucking Dick Cheney quote. Like fucking Bruce Wayne just quoted Dick Cheney, and he was talking about Superman. Like
it's such a bad.
There's that point where Jesse Eisenberg shoves candy into a grown man's mouth in a very sexual way. There's the jar of pee.
The jar of
Granny's peach tea. No, man, I disagree. I think that it was great. I think that movie. No, I don't like the movie.
The red capes are coming.
Yeah, I don't like the movie. But
there's a lot of good memes that come out of it.
All the shit that came out of it. Yeah, I'm gonna say right now. Even though I'm with you. Like there's like a 3-hour Movie Bob video essay about why Batman versus Superman is really terrible. That's like a 3-part.
It's long.
And it's great. And like I love watching it because I'm like, yeah, fucking take him down, Movie Bob. I'm with you. Like
there's a Facebook group that I follow that's that's just people making memes about DC movies, and it's called Martha Posting. And you know exactly why it's called Martha Posting.
Sure.
And so a lot of the gags for a while when I first joined it was just revolving around Batman v Superman and just how fucking awful that movie is.
By the way, I want to make it perfectly clear that just because we don't like the movie doesn't mean that we don't like that person who commented last week.
That's true.
I'm fine. Like, we can just disagree on
although I'm
things.
Suspicious of your taste.
Some people don't like avocados. Like, that's fine.
That's true, but I'm also suspicious of your taste.
So.
Especially when it comes to Superbad.
God, what is the movie that keeps slipping out? Aliens versus Predator.
Oh.
The first Aliens versus Predator is like one of the only movies in history that I've ever I was at the preview screening for it for press, and I walked out.
Oh, geez.
Because I was like, this is fucking stupid. This is so
bad.
fucking stupid. Like, well, how do you make an Aliens versus Predator movie that's about the fucking people? I don't want that. That's stupid.
Also, there's only like 1 or 2 aliens in it.
See, I used to really love the Aliens franchise, and I used to really love the Predator franchise, and then they ran both of those into the ground.
That's true.
So they're garbage.
That's another good example of some of that shit.
But there hasn't been a good Superman movie since Superman 2. Like an actual theatrical Superman movie?
I have some soft spots for some parts of Superman Returns as well as Man of Steel.
Okay.
Somewhat. The thing is, Man of Steel could be a good Superman movie if you re-edited the shit out of it. Which I found.
Well, that's true for a lot of movies, Michael.
Well,
it's 5 minutes long and it's great.
Speaking of movies, or speaking of ways I'm liking Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
So I think I've told you about this. Somebody that I know through Randy sent me a link to a fan edit. I think it was called. I can't even remember the name of the fan edit anymore. I think it was like something about hope. I think was the name of it. I can't even remember.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody edited the Man of Steel, Batman v Superman together and made a good movie.
All right.
Out of it, because it makes every decision make sense in Batman v Superman. At least the ones that they kept, as well as removing a lot of the stuff that I hated from Man of Steel, and it made a very coherent movie that I ended up watching a bunch of times, and I have it at home that I will watch again. I think it's just called the Man of Tomorrow edit or something like that. And I have watched it a couple times. It's like a 2-hour thing, and it works really well. And that's my piece, I guess, on those two. It's really what it comes down to. But I really liked it. You guys ever get a chance to look it up?
Boy, they fucked up the end of Star Wars.
They did.
Episode 9, right?
Did you go to The Gathering when we talked about it?
Maybe.
Okay. This is my favorite thing. This is my favorite thing that came out of Rise of Skywalker. Is that we went to The Gathering that day.
Maybe I didn't.
And the entire night of The Gathering, and I mean the entire night, from the second I got there to it ending, was us talking shit about Rise of Skywalker. Because every now and then we would be done, and then somebody would bring it up, and then it would go back up.
Yep.
And then it would be done. The only time I didn't talk about Rise of Skywalker is there's this girl named Rose who also does stuff for one of us. She was there, and she's like, I haven't seen it yet. And so she was the only one who hadn't seen it yet. And so she went outside, and I didn't want her to be by herself, so I went outside and just talked about something else. only time in that entire hour's worth of time frame where I didn't talk about Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And the second she was gone, we all went right back to talking Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I was trying to think like the other problem Persian King with this argument is the same as what was going on before. Said Michael, the internet has really beaten me to the ground when it comes to caring about shit.
That's true.
So I'm like, I mean, yeah, they fucked up episode 9. Of course they did. Of course they did. Like,
The thing is, I don't despise episode 9.
we can't have good things. Like, of course they fucked it up. Like,
Yeah.
they got all freaked out because of the Rian Johnson thing in The Last Jedi, and people didn't like it. And that's why was it you that was on the podcast when we were talking about long franchises, and I was like, it's kind of a miracle that the Avengers didn't fall on its face, because
That's true, yeah.
like a lot of these franchises fucking fall down and fuck up.
A lot of times at the third movie, for the most part.
Yeah. Because it's hard. It's hard to end something on a satisfactory note. So, yeah. So a lot of these things, my expectations have kind of been dashed for, and I find it's a lot easier to just be like, oh, let me watch this thing. Nope. Okay, I'm not going to watch it anymore. How about this one? Like, I never used to turn a movie off halfway through, but as soon as games started getting too long for me to finish them, it was like, that was my thing.
Oh, okay.
And then once the completionist streak for games got broken in me, I was like, well, fuck it, man. What am I, like, like 60% of the way through this movie? I hate this movie. Fuck off. I want to watch a different movie. Like, so.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. We're already over time, but we got time for one more. Professor Fett writes in and says, hey, Jeff and Michael, this is a liquor question for you. Oh, shit. This probably isn't for you, but what is your favorite kind of beer? Do you ever go to breweries? I never got the appeal. Most just function as a bar with one kind of beer. If John is on Coke or Pepsi products or both.
Oh,
Do you
I
have
guess
like
that
Coke or
would go.
Pepsi?
Coke. But I actually stopped drinking sodas recently. But the answer has always been Coke.
Okay.
Coke products. Coke products are way better.
My favorite beer, there's a lot of them. I really like that there's one here in town from a brewery called Hops and Grain. It's the one they call Zoe.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
an orange and black can. I drink it all the time. Or actually, it's like orange and silver now.
There's a couple of breweries near here, actually.
Yep. Adelbert's
Where we
over
are.
the corner, and there's a couple of others. The thing is, sometimes one of the reasons to go to a brewery tour is to get the beer right out of the vats before
yeah.
it has been like put into a can, sealed, pasteurized, and then like put forth, which sometimes makes it taste better. I mean, if you have a beer with a more complicated taste, I feel like it can taste a little fresher if you're getting it from a place. Also, they tend to be kind of cool. I mean, it's like a bar, right?
Yeah,
Like,
for the most part, a lot of them just have a bar-like area.
yeah. And also, I mean, if you're a dork about it, like, it's kind of cool to see the big vats and, where the actual machinery that makes the beer is sometimes interesting to look at. Like, John Rubio once told me this story from the Beerist about like that they were trying to make this beer, or there's this one place where they built this brewery to make this beer, and part of the way that the beer was supposed to taste was based on like pollen and air that came in from the outside. And so they had to basically have these big open windows that came in to where the fermenting and the brewing was happening. But then they had problems with like flies and stuff coming in. So the entire top of this like brewery area is nothing but spider webs because they brought in spiders to basically kill off the bugs that were coming in to fuck with their beer. And apparently, like when you go on this brewery tour, there's literally signs that are just like, do not step on spiders, do not disturb spiders. If there is one on you, please brush it off. Try not to kill it. Like, the spiders serve a purpose.
That's amazing.
Do not fuck with the spiders. And that is a brewery that I will never go to. And that
We get beer spider powers, spider beers.
I was at a brewery tour. I got bit by a drunken spider. Now I'm just drunk Spider-Man. Drunk Spider-Man does whatever a drunk spider can, which is like spin a shitty web. That's what I can do. I'm like,
Absolutely. It's like Charlotte's Web, except it just says, please call an Uber.
So some beer. All right, that's it. We're done.
Quick gag about the Coke product thing.
Okay.
Is that when I was working at this place, you could buy Coke and Pepsi products, and they ran out of Coke products, and so I made a Facebook post that said I had to buy Pepsi like a peasant. And it turns out a lot of my Facebook friends are really big Pepsi fans.
I am a Pepsi fan. I like Pepsi more than Coke. A lot of it is probably because when I was a kid, I didn't drink soda, but I used to go to the UT library with my dad, and then we would go check out books, and then he would go and he would get a Pepsi and let me take a sip of it. And when I did, the fizziness would always make me make a face. I'm talking about I was like a toddler. And then he had all these like friends that worked at the library because my dad's a fucking nerd. Also, it was like 1980. So, and apparently whenever I would take the sip and make the face, all the guys there would be like, ha, 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 look at a little kid making a face. And apparently that was like a good memory for me.
Oh, okay.
Also, I just think Coke is too sweet. I know I said all that. Like that was like some way of imprinting on me. But I also think Coke is a little too sweet. And I kind of like
funny because I think the opposite. I think Pepsi is too sweet.
All right. There you go. So let us know what your favorite soda product is in the comments.
Coke
Check
v.
out
Pepsi.
more from Michael over at oneofus.net, and we'll see you next week. Bye.